Welcome to the start of the World Putting League 2024 season. I'm JT Tilley, and today, Pro League Network brings you a new era in competitive mini golf. After 5 events in 2023, we witnessed a showing of dominance by the one and only Joey Grable. His game evolved so rapidly, it created a cult following within the mini golf space. However, new competitors look to emerge as WPL introduces Survivor Series. 12 players look to kick each other's putts right here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, with a series of 3 events. 6 of those 12 putters will compete today, with the other 6 competing on March 4th. 4 competitors will make their way to the final on April 2nd with only one survivor. Episode 1 will feature 6 golfers who play through one round. The top 3 scores will advance to a sudden death playoff, restarting at hole 1 and playing through until there is one competitor remaining. The 2 event winners plus the top 2 overall round scores from either event will earn wildcard spots and also advance to the final. The final round will feature 4 players in bracket match play, where the preliminary winners face off against the wildcard entries in seeded matches. All tournaments are played with each hole as a par 2. If a ball is up against a rail or directly touching an object, the official will move the ball parallel 8 inches from the spot. It's typical golf out there. Lowest score wins. Who do you think will survive? Let's introduce our commentators, Rob Pizzola and Zach Phillips, as they give their breakdowns next.
Alessi, North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Kent Cranford, Gastonia, North Carolina.
Gary Hester, Calabash, North Carolina.
All right, Rob, let's take a look here at what we've got for today. We obviously ran through the golfers. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You know what? We do betting here over at the Hammer Betting Network. We have to find value in whatever it is. We talked a little bit about hole 8. We talked about hole 12. Who do you got winning here today? I'm putting you on the spot. I want to know, who is your pick to win this event today?
I hate doing stuff like this because it's going to offend someone one way or another, and I know a lot of these putters. I really like the way that this course shapes up for Kent Cranford, and specifically just his course history here. U.S. Open, 6 rounds a few years back, and just putting up insane numbers, 33, 33, 30, 32, 34, 34. That's a model of consistency, someone who knows this course inside and out. People are concerned about the rust factor and the fact that he took some time off in between. But ultimately, I think a lot of those mechanics and the way to play that course, it sticks with you forever. So not saying nobody else can win here, but for my money, I think Kent Cranford probably the best bet on the board.
As we're getting a note here from our producer in studio, 53% humidity down there. You think that's going to play a factor on the carpets?
Honestly, relative to other times in the year, I think this will play a little bit slower than normal. Like, you play this course in the dead heat of summer and the putts are like this, lightning fast. Some of these holes are drastic elevation. You're either putting really uphill or you're putting downhill. Out of bounds is in play on a ton of these holes as well. I think it's a little bit more dangerous to play this in the summer than it is right now, as we see some of our putters warming up on course here. But ultimately speaking, I don't know that the humidity is going to be a huge factor today. And even the way that these putters are dressed, long sleeves right now, tells you that it's on the cooler side today.
All right, well, Rob, this is actually live here. We've got Gary's second shot of the first hole of play. So there you go. Gary is in for 2 here. But now the event underway. The bets are finalized. Let's see how this one shakes out as we have our final picks in. And this event is rocking here.
Yeah, so hole 1 is one of the easier holes on this golf course. This is a very tough course altogether. Now this hole sits between those 2 rocks that you saw there when Gary was putting. You aim just inside the corner of the right brick, and it kind of funnels into the hole. This is a very aceable hole. You'll see this ace over 30% of the time. Putters are going to want to 1 on this hole, but this is what can happen. Now we'll see what the second putt looks like here for Rick Alessi, because sometimes you'll get blocked out by that rock, and it makes for a nasty second putt. But it looks like he has an angle here, which is great. And he makes his
There
two.
you go. Yeah.
Makes his two.
See, I'm going to have to rely on you a lot here, Rob, as you are the one with some of the familiarity with these courses. You got to go down there and experience this last year, get to play yourself and a couple of different events, that is. So we'll have to lean to your expertise on some of these. But those shots there where you have a rock like that, or rocks like that, multiple in the way, kind of guarding that hole, how daunting is it looking down at the hole and seeing that there?
Well, for these guys, probably not so much, because they're just going to trust their line and like the muscle repetition, muscle memory. They've done this a million times before, but you could get a bad bounce on what is typically an easy hole like number 1 here, and you end up with a horrible spot for your number 2 shot. Right. Again, we see a rock touched here by Dr. Kent Cranford on his first shot, and we'll see if he has a line here for his second, but you do not want a 3 on the first hole whatsoever. And he's checking out to see if he has a line here or if he's going to get any sort of relief whatsoever. But this is one where you do not want to bogey out of the gate, because typically speaking, our average score on this hole is 1.9, lower than par. Looking for a deuce, and he's pulled it here.
See, there you go. The first 2 golfers, Rick Alessi and Gary Hester, make it out of there with 2s. And we're going to see Dr. Kent Cranford come away on this one with a bogey here.
And this will be interesting in terms of the mentality going forwards, right? Because he's going to feel like he's chasing already. He's only 1 stroke down after 1 hole to 2 other competitors, but you got to make that up somewhere, right? Only 1 person is going to get an automatic bid from this group, from this preliminary group, and then we're going to get 2 wild cards over the other 2 preliminaries. Hole number 2, this one, Zach, is one of the toughest, if not the toughest on the course. You do not ace hole number 2. Right. It just doesn't happen. This is a huge hill, a 180-degree turn in this one. And if you do not hit the ball hard enough, it comes right back to you. So this is literally, if you could give every putter on tour a 2, they would take it right out of the gate at this hole. One of the most challenging on the course. Players may tee this up slightly differently, but there's this huge 180-degree turn to the right, as you're going to see here after the original putt here from Gary. And that's hard.
Left side.
And this is going to leave himself some work. Excuse me, Rick Alessi here, not Gary Hester. But this is work. Like, these are not easy deuce putts here. This is why the average of this hole is 2.76 at the 2021 Masters.
Left himself a little bit of meat on the bone and knocks it down.
And this could be the course familiarity at play. Not to say that nobody can knock down that second putt, but you see how quickly he moved over the ball, lined it up. He knew what he was doing right away there.
Well, that's why he was my pick, Rob. I don't know about you, but
yeah. Well, Ken Cranford for me, not looking good with the early bogey. Let's see if he can nestle one right up in there. Again, this is not an aceable hole. It just doesn't happen. You're looking for as short a deuce putt as possible here.
Step away. That's a good step away.
The step off.
Yeah,
the old step off. See that in Major League Baseball all the time on the mound.
You have to respect that. You're out here, as much as it is about pace of play, you're out here to win. I do like the hat he's wearing, by the way. I might have to find myself one of those.
A little Bass Pro style hat right there. But that's a great shot.
Wow. What a putt.
And this is it. Like, it's so hard to ace this, but that is an A+ effort right there from Kent Cranford.
Gets himself in great position to just knock this one in. No worries at all. You follow up that bogey on hole number 1 with par here.
All
gets it
in
two, and you're good to go.
See, like, it's just one of those that gets you right back on track there. Gary Hester up here after parring the first hole, plus 175 at Bet365.
Gary with a solid approach.
Ooh.
Oh, get in the hole.
Look at this.
Good approach as well.
Really good shots here from Gary and Kent back to back. As all 3 of them take a par, and that's what you want on number 2. Par is great. Yeah. Great score here. So nobody dropping strokes there. As Kent Cranford is 1 over. Gary Hester, Rick Alessi, even par.
Well, it was interesting to see their approaches there as well. You saw Gary and you saw Rick take the approach where they both nestle it up and it hits against the backing there, the backboard essentially up past the ridge against the wooden sticks there, lining things. And then you see Ken Cranford is able to kind of just nestle his in there nice and easily, but no one really has to deal with the concern of the uphill battle as much as we thought it might play a factor there. And as we head to hole 3, we're going to have Gary and Rick even here. Kent still trailing after that bogey on 1. But next up, hole number 3.
And you see this, the line that they showed on the graphic here. This is a bank shot, hole number 3. There's not a lot of risk on this hole. You're kind of just looking to bank off the yellow brick and get the right kick towards the hole. But this one's aceable. You see it aced just under 20% of the time. Kent Cranford up here first.
Look at that Pro League Network WPL gear. That's some sharp gear right there.
Premier quality right there. Little bank.
Okay, bank off the back.
And he got it. That's how
There
you
you
play
go.
this hole. That's how you play it. The doctor's back in business here. Found the cure, I would say. He found
Come
the cure.
on.
Look at this, Sean. There's our hole-in-one tracker as well. Over
Yep.
under 13.5. We already got 1. And these guys will play the same shot here. It doesn't always kick. This is the beautiful thing about mini putt. It doesn't always kick the same way, though.
Right.
So, really good shot there from Kent. Does he have enough
Gary.
speed?
Not quite enough on it to get that one all the way in. But looks like he's going to have a nice easy putt to close this one out with a 2.
Yep. This run of holes 3, 4, and 5 are all aceable, but not easy. You'd like to pull out at least one ace on 3, 4, or 5.
Right.
So Kent Cranford a little ahead of the ball right now. Gary with the par. He'll take that even par through 3. Let's see what Rick Alessi does here. Looks like he's taking a similar line on the left-hand side of the tee box.
And for those over 13.5 bettors on the aces, total aces throughout the round here today, this 3-hole stretch will be fairly important.
Oh,
There you
a little
go.
more speed. Rick Alessi. So we got 2 holes in 1 here. Beautiful.
Just flirting with the entire cup there. Make it a little bit interesting for those not only betting on the aces, but those betting on Rick. Because that one was, I'm not going to lie, my heart skipped a beat a little bit when I saw that thing firing back at the hole, thinking there was a chance we're not only going to not ace that one, but leave a little bit of a longer putt, having to come back and close it out. But knocks that one down. Now Rick Alessi takes the lead. -1. Gary Hester still at even. And Dr. Kent Cranford comes back after what was a bogey on the first hole. And it's like it never even happened here now.
Exactly. Back to even par. Hole 4, an interesting one here. And again, this is aceable. You'll see it aced about 17% of the time. This is a front door putt, as you can see by the graphics. Ooh, just a little fast. And you can see now the issues that can cause.
Yeah.
Your second putt past the hole. The timing is so important. The speed is so important on this.
Yeah, this feels more like the speed of the approach is the biggest factor of how everything is going to play out here, because it seems as though we're going to see everyone kind of line up to that right side of the of where you putt from at the beginning there.
If you look at Rick Alessi's live odds, down to plus 400 right now at Bet365, whereas he was 5-1 or higher beginning the tournament. So odds reducing after that ace on number 3.
Rick lines it up. Looks. Ooh, oh, wow.
Just missed it to the right. Great putt. Gave it a chance, just missed it to the right. Again, this is not, a lot of people will be watching this for the first time, and until you actually experience it and you play it, you don't realize how much these greens, these carpets actually move. You have to be so pinpoint with your tee shots sometimes here. So great effort there. Just missed it on the right side of the hole after we saw Gary go a little bit too hard with his earlier there.
Well, our final golfer for this hole here, we're going to have Dr. Ken Cranford see if he can maybe make an ace here to get himself tied for the lead. Colorful scorecard for him there to start.
And
Got that one touched up on the left side.
He missed that one a little bit. So you want to miss that slope on the left, and he caught just a bit of the ridge. You kind of want to take it as close to the ridge as possible. And there's a little bit of meat left on this bone as well, Zach. This is not an easy second putt here. You don't typically see bogeys too often at number 4, but this one a little bit more challenging. And also, I'm noticing already, time of day, there's lots of shadows on this course as well, which could play tricks with your mind. You'll see him consulting his book right now for the read. A lot of these putters practice pretty heavily before the rounds. They chart out the greens so that they know where it's going to break. Because if you're just kneeling back behind the ball here, it's very, very difficult to see exactly what the break is going to be.
Well, and not only is he going to have a little bit of a distance left on this putt, but he is dealing with, as you said, some shadows there. He's dealing with the idea of that rock being kind of in his focal point in the backswing here as well. So see if he can knock this one down.
I missed it to the right.
He doesn't.
See, these are not gimmies. And I could tell you, the first event I ever watched, WPL #1, I watched this and I was like, how are these guys missing these second putts? These are professional putters. And then I went out and did it myself, and these putts move. A lot of these move. So Kent a little bit all over the place. Kent Cranford in the early going there. A couple bogeys and an ace as well through 4 holes.
How would you describe your mindset?
It's going to be focused.
Focus.
Yeah. We're not going to be out here, having a family reunion. We're all friends, but not a family reunion. It's competition.
Okay, and who are you most looking forward to competing against in this upcoming tournament? Of the 12 competitors, who's one you got to worry about?
There's a lot of good competitors. Gary's been playing really well lately for the past year, and he's in my bracket, so that should be a good bracket.
So you were a little worried about Gary? Or?
You're always worried about, and then Joey's in the other bracket, but then you got Greg Newport, Randy Reeves, Kent. He's in our bracket. He came in 3rd last year in the U.S. Open on this course, so he loves this course.
How would you feel about your odds going into this round as like a heavy underdog?
I was hoping I wasn't a heavy underdog, but I could be. And I feel confident.
You feel confident. Do you prefer to be the heavy underdog? Or do you like being, kind of the main focus coming in?
It don't matter. I'm going to do well, so.
Okay. That's the talk we like.
Back here now for hole number 5. Rick Alessi on the lead, -1 here. Gary Hester still at even. Kent Cranford closing this one out here at +1 in this first group. And Rob, can you talk us through a little bit about what we're going to see in hole number 5 and how these golfers might approach this?
Yeah, this is the double possible shot here. Different outcomes. Play the bank, play the straight in. As we look right here at Rick Alessi, who's up, and just look at this guy. On fire. We just saw a taste of it in the interview with Josh right before. This guy is very focused today. Like, this is not a family reunion, as Rick holds up the ball to the camera there. But 2 aces, 3 pars through 5 holes. This is about as good a start as he could have possibly have hoped for here. So he's going to want to continue that going forwards. But that was the straight shot, playing for the ace. It looks like Kent Cranford is lined up in the same area here. Going to pick up some debris here off the course, which can affect the line of the putt. But looks like he's going for that same line. And I see it now with the hat, Zach.
That's a hat right there.
That's a hat.
That's a hat.
It's a hat and a half.
It kind of looks like the shirt that you had worn, I think, on your debut in the WPL.
We don't talk about that one anymore.
Oh, that one we're racing from history?
We're racing from history.
Okay.
Ken
Here we
Cranford
go,
here.
doctor.
Good speed. Just missed slightly to the left of the hole here. So he'll have a tap in too, hopefully. But again, uphill the entire way.
Yep.
Breaks from right to left. Many different ways to play the shot. But so far we've seen both Ken Cranford and Rick Alessi go with the same line. Will Gary play it the same way? And it looks like he is playing it off the left side. Hester, bottle of consistency. Always has been. 4 straight pars. We're going to have to start mixing in some aces here. Par is not going to be good enough today. A little bit more pace on this one. Ooh.
Oh.
Now, this is not enough pace to bring out of bounds into play. Some of these holes, you will miss past the hole, and you could go out of bounds, which would be a 1-stroke penalty and the ball being spotted right where it went out of bounds. And he's in there for 2. So 5 pars for Gary Hester. Again, just going to have to try to mix in some aces at some point here.
A very hot start here for Rick Alessi. -2, taking the lead of this group number 1. Gary Hester's going to have a little bit of ground to make up. But, Rob, I'm kind of curious here about your thoughts on Where are we at here now in terms of the pace that you had maybe set out for the total aces here on the course today? 13.5. We're looking at the over plus 110. How does this kind of factor in here based on where we're at right now?
Yeah, I think the 2 aces that we saw a couple of holes ago really put us on track there, because those are typically holes that are not aced. But that was an early run of some holes that you can ace. 1, 3, 4, 5. Now we're getting into a hole here in hole 6 that looks very inviting and tempting, but this one can bring a huge score into play with the way that this hole is designed. Because if you get stuck up against that back wall, you're going to have no stance for this hole. But so far, so good. Players are attacking, and what we've seen for the most part, Zach, is that they're taking more aggressive lines for these holes. Here we go, and that's just hung out to the right.
A little wide there.
Little wide. So you'll see the camera right on the right side there. That's a wall right there. So you go too far past this hole, you do not have a stance for your number 2. This is where big scores come into play. This is one of the harder holes. It's only aced about 4% of the time. 1 in 25 roughly. But it looks so inviting to really go after it.
It does. It does. It looks like this is one of those ones that would have an easier approach. You'd think here this is going to be a no-doubter ace, but oh, wow.
And that's what happens. See, Gary's upset with himself.
This ball is coming back.
But there is real inherent risk of going long on this hole. And every one of these putters knows that. If you put it past the hole and it rolls out into that back wall, you are dead in the water. So you play a little too conservatively like Gary did there, and you end up coming up short, unfortunately. Much better stroke.
Second attempt.
And that was so close. That was so close. But he's going to be disappointed with this 3. And he's got some work to do. He's got some work to do. We're going to get into a run here of holes 7 and 8 coming up where you could go back-to-back ace. Those are aceable holes. But that's a very disappointing result for Gary Hester on that hole. Rick Alessi with a nice cushion so far, down to plus 250 at Bet365 on the current odds board. Came in at plus 500, so definitely moving the needle quite a bit with those first 5 holes. And that's a great putt. It looks easier to ace than it is. A lot of the misses are narrow, but that's another great putt for Alessi. And he's moving here at 2 under. Looking good into 7 and 8, which are both very aceable holes. Arguably the 2 easiest holes on the course coming up here. And hole number 7, you don't want to be too aggressive here because past the hole, out of bounds is in play. It's a double breaker of a shot. Some people call it a snake putt. Some people call it an S putt. But it goes left, and then right, and then back into the hole. So you'll see this break quite a bit. But the key here is not to get too aggressive, especially if you're Rick Alessi with a 3-shot lead on Gary Hester and Kent Cranford right now. Kent and Gary, they're going to have to start getting more aggressive here in this situation.
Both Kent and Gary here currently sitting +1. You see Rick here in the lead -2. How do you kind of feel that this might affect his mindset going forward here with some of these holes that he has coming up? Obviously, as we said, 7, 8, 12, some aceable holes. Those are ones that Gary and Kent are going to have to take some chances on. Is this just business as usual? Does he continue to play an aggressive style? What are your thoughts there?
Well, so he did go pretty aggressive here past the hole. Now, this is a very delicate putt, but you can see Gary is now, he's playing for these aces. And typically, I think of Gary Hester as a more conservative putter. He's finding himself outside of his comfort zone, in my opinion, right now. Now, that's not to say that he cannot turn it around by any stretch of the imagination, but typically speaking, you see him atop the leaderboard, not someone who's chasing. So this changes things a lot for him as he rolled that one out past the hole and hits his number 2 putt. But very, very different for him right now. Alessi's cool, calm, and collected. It's the favorites that are behind here, which we did not expect when we were previewing this before the show.
Now, I did pick Alessi, so
let's
not forget about that.
Still a lot of holes to go here, Zach. Still a lot of holes to go here. But Rick is looking good right now. As he steps up here on number 7, what's considered the easiest hole on the golf course. Just a little tap.
Direct approach.
Ooh, but again, hard.
Speed,
and
but
you
coming
see
back here.
there is a little slope on the back there that brings you back to the hole, but it is way easier than you think for the ball to go over that slope.
Right.
Way easier.
You can't just play this as a traditional bowl necessarily.
Exactly.
It's impossible to escape. There is the risk of going out. Nice knockdown putt there by Alessi to close out that hole for himself.
Now, we did see the 13.5 hole-in-ones.
Yes.
Typically speaking, if you were betting the over on that, you would want to see at least one of these guys ace this hole.
Right.
This is an aceable hole. In fact, if we look back at the Masters 2021, 31% of the field aced this hole.
Well, now would be a good time for the doctor to get surgical, drop this one in.
Does he have the
a good
line?
Just.
And maybe the rust is a factor here. Maybe it is. A couple times we've seen him miss his starting line right there.
Yeah.
And that looked like one of them there where he missed to the left of the hole.
It's the traditional rest versus rust debate here, Rob. And it looks like Rick Alessi is taking advantage of the fact that he's been out at this course. He's been nearby this course and preparing for it there with his wife as they live not too far away. But taking the lead here and the live leader as we head into hole number 8. Now, this is the one here, Rob, I've been waiting for. We previewed it numerous times. We do have betting odds on this one. The over hole-in-ones set at 0.5. The over-under hole-in-ones 0.5. Over minus 230. The under plus 170 is one of the most dynamic holes on the course. There's multiple different ways to play this one. We were looking more towards the minus 230 side. Willing to lay that juice. What are your thoughts on this hole and the ability to ace this one here?
Yeah, so it's definitely aceable. At the 2021 Masters, 28% of the field did ace this hole. It's another downhill shot, and if you play that straight line, it's going to break from right to left. You could possibly use the small hill behind the hole to bring this back in as well. So there's lots of different ways that this can go in the hole. You almost have a second chance if you miss the putt slightly to the right. You can also play a bank shot, but with the way Gary Hester is and Kent Cranford right now in terms of their standings behind Rick Alessi, I think they're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive on this hole. So this is to the right, and now it's going to miss to the left. You could get a kick back here if you have enough pace.
Right.
Just not enough pace. But Rick will be happy with a 2 here. I mean, certainly you want to ace this hole whenever you can because there's just not that many aceable holes on this course. But he's not going to be too upset with a 2 right now.
Yeah. Still in the lead here. Now, Dr. Ken Cranford coming up next. See, the one thing I found very interesting about that original putt that we saw there from Rick, I was not prepared personally for how much it was going to snake towards that hole. Right. You know, he had to play it out towards one side, comes back, then comes back another way at the hole. Interested to see how the doctor will play this one here.
This one's a pure right to left. So it's going to go right to left the whole way. And it's just a matter of getting your speed and line right. But this could kick back in. Again, just a little bit short. So again, you have 2 chances at this hole. You could get it in the front door. It's got to be a perfect putt. But if you do miss, like a lot of these guys do, that goes a little bit left of the hole, if you got enough pace, it will come back down at the hole. But again, if we do not get an ace here by Gary Hester, 13.5 is because we're going to get to the back 9, and there's some really tough holes on the back 9. Number 11, 13, 14, 15, that just aces aren't even in the cards. Gary, front door. Ooh.
Oh. Does it have a chance on the way back?
Go. Oh, just short. Just short.
Wow.
Tough break.
Well, there you go. It's going to rely on group number 2 to get that minus 230 on the over 0.5 hole-in-ones for us here, Rob. So we're going to continue to sweat that one out. And for those of you out there who have bet that with us, you can sweat that one out into the second group as well. But there you go. Rick Alessi taking the lead as we continue on into hole number 9. So Rick Alessi minus 2, Gary Hester and Kent Crawford there sitting there at +1.
separates you from these 5 competitors on February 26th?
Well, they have achieved a number of putting victories and
Awards, accomplishments.
awards and all that stuff. And so I'm still very hungry for this. You know, coming back after that long period of time, I've really got a passion for mini golf now, and it's a lot of fun, and it brings me back to my childhood days. And so I've really got a passion to do well.
If you were to compare your, wow. If you were to
That was Gary Hester, by the way, back there slamming the door.
coming in with rage, then that's not a happy Gary Hester. I'll tell you that. If you were to compare your competitive spirit to an all-time sports athlete, who would it be?
I'm not the GOAT, but I like to think that I've got the competitive spirit of Michael Jordan.
Okay,
My
Joey.
tongue may even come out sometime.
In the WPL, Joey Grable won 4 straight.
He did.
Talk to me about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Joey is an awesome guy, good friend. But if you ask him who was the last person who beat him one-on-one in a playoff for a tournament, the answer would be me.
Rob, is this the cave hole that you had played yourself?
Different hole, different course, and different hole, but it is into the cave.
Yes.
So they are playing into the cave here. This hole breaks from left to right. It has a lot of similarities to the hole at the Hawaiian Rumble, where you're going to want to see, or you will see, excuse me, the putters tee up as far left as they possibly can. We do not have a left-handed putter in this field. Rick Alessi, Gary Hester, Kent Cranford, all righties. But if you could putt lefty, it would be a big advantage here because you want to be as close to the left rail as possible. This goes basically left to right. Challenging hole altogether. You will see some threes here. It is aceable, but it happens less than 10% of the time. So most of your scores here will be a 2, but you do get the off chance of an ace, and in some cases a blow up, especially if you get your line wrong on this opening tee shot.
Well, I'm excited to see how these guys play it. Here we go, Rob, taking a look inside the cave. What a view that is.
Yeah, these are tricky shots. Again, you want to try... Oh, we are switching to lefty here. So notice
Interesting.
Kent Cranford going to left. And I think this is an advantage. It wasn't for me when I played in a cave hole and switched to lefty, but I think getting up as far as you can to that side, it's just so much more comfortable and you have a better line. So little bit of a built-in advantage here for Kent.
And most putters do play this one left-handed switch over. As you see there on the wall, there's an assortment of putters. And as someone in the Hammer HQ YouTube channel, Abnormally Disc, saying, that's why they're pros and we are Joes.
Yep.
That's the difference there, Rob.
That's a great putt right there. That's a nice little leave. Less than a foot, tap in. And now, obviously, Kent Cranford's going to be looking for some birdies going forwards here, some aces, I should say. But Gary Hester... that looks like the same putter, and it's a double-sided that he typically plays with. Little shorter putter there, but it is big being able to line up left here and getting a better line. That's hit with some pace.
Oh, was that it?
And a nice little leave as well there.
You know what we should have looked into here is... You know when a batter steps up at the box and he goes in there, switch hitter, he goes up one side. If you go up there with a pure left-handed putter, can you switch over to the right-handed after, or are you locked into the left because that's how you started? We've seen guys use the backhand, and I understand that's a play, or the double-sided. But if you use just the left-handed putter, can you switch mid-hole?
That's a very good question. We'll have to bring in the rules experts. Rick Alessi here, you notice that he
Going with
lined
the
up right to the
right-handed
right.
approach.
This is a very different line.
Wow.
You could tell Rick's been playing the course because that's a very different line to anything that we have seen.
Yeah.
Stuck with the right-handed putter, played his shot, looking for the 2, got the easy tap in. And honestly, this has been a clinic on the front 9 for Rick Alessi. 2 under through 9, solid score that you'd want to have there. A lot of the higher handicapped holes are coming in the back, but ultimately Rick looking good so far as we head into hole 10 in the back 9 here.
Well, Rick is our live favorite here as we finish up the front 9. And if you're reading the chat or if you're participating in that, I'm seeing some people here, Rob, that something we might need to be aware of is there's a general feel out there that Gary Hester is a back nine player. So maybe this is the time where he turns it on. He does have a three strokes that he needs to make up here on Rick. There's going to be some aceable holes, some aceable opportunities. But as we've said, and as it continues to be a factor here through 9 holes, Rick is taking advantage of that home course advantage and his ability to know what he has to do when he has to do it.
Gary's up first here. Now, some players will play this from the left side. Others will play it from the right side, but the ball's going to go right to left no matter what and straighten out. So there's 2 lines. You're looking for a right to left putt, and then it straightens out towards the hole. This is aceable about 18% of the time.
Can it go down?
Oh. And like, he's just not, he's frustrated, and you can see that by the 360 pirouette he did there after the putt. But sometimes you just do not get the breaks. And if that was at a pace, or if it caught any of the hole, it's going down, but it just misses by a hair. And he's frustrated walking up the ramp there onto hole number 11.
And, it hasn't been too much to be frustrated about for him. He had the 1 bogey on the front 9 there. That's going to leave him in the +1 position. Other than that, it's been a pretty clean round of golf for him. I think more so just looking over at Alessi, who's been able to take advantage of some of these opportunities, hasn't yet bogeyed here through 9 holes. He does have 2 aces, and
he has a third.
Again,
called
Rob,
it too soon.
The
commentator
Bush. Jinx.
Wow, look at Rick biting his finger there. Wow. I thought that was down too. Honestly, that was great speed. I thought it was going to go down, but yes, absolutely, the commentator mush in full effect right there. Another deuce putt though for Rick. That's just like a tap in, which has been the case all day. And you talked about the frustration of Gary Hester. It's not necessarily that he's having a terrible round. It's the format of this event. Yeah. These guys know that they need to go low. Pars are not good enough. Bogeys especially are terrible. Kent with a couple on the card already. So they're going to have to start putting in some aces here. And this is one of the aceable holes in the back 9. A lot of them are much more difficult than this.
Is the doctor looking to even things up?
Ooh, is it going to get there?
Can it go?
Right line,
enough.
wrong speed. Wow. And this is going to make things very challenging.
Yes.
Very challenging.
8 holes to play here for group number 1. You're going to see the doctor here trailing the pack of 3. Rick Alessi in the lead there, -2. Gary and Kent there both have +1, but obviously Kent has had a little bit more of an up and down type of round here, and he did come in as the 3rd favorite. He's going to be looking at much more of a daunting task, it feels, than potentially even Gary here, who has felt like he's been in a comfortable position, not too far here behind Rick, but Rick is playing a pretty clean front 9. So 8 remaining. We're going to get closer and closer to that hole number 12, where we are going to have another great aceable opportunity.
Hole 11 is not an aceable opportunity. This is actually avoid disaster. That's your basic goal on hole number 11, is avoid disaster. Aces are almost impossible here. They do happen sometimes, but they happen less than 1% of the time. You are playing for a short deuce putt here, and you'll see that this is going to bounce off 2 different hills on its way to the hole. There's bounce number 1. There's number 2. And out of bounds is in play. And that's what I was getting at with Rick Alessi. That was too hard of a putt. You have 2 out of bounds possibilities on this hole. One is if you hit that first hill and it misses to the right. And the second is exactly what we saw from Rick Alessi. So he's taking a penalty stroke. This will be for a 3. And this is no gimme either. So again, you can see why hole 11, just avoid disaster, is what basically all these putters want to do.
Talk about commentator mush. We continue to say over and over again about this clean round that he's played, and then steps up at hole number 11, one of the more difficult holes on the course here today, and he's going to sacrifice 1-stroke penalty and not able to get that one in clean there.
Double bogey right there. Brings him back to even par. I think Rick might be texting me after this show saying, why the heck did you have to say that I had that ace on 10? But such is life. And again, now this is an opportunity for everyone else. Kent Cranford, Gary Hester, and everyone who's playing in that second threesome later on today. It's looking really challenging so far. In this one, you just want to get your 2. Just nestle it up to the hole, get your 2, move on, live to fight another day. He missed the first hill there, which is interesting. That's going to leave him a fairly long second putt because he don't get the right angle to trickle back down to the hole.
Right.
And he's going to consult the book here, as a lot of these pros will do on the longer deuce putts.
Now, how do you think these guys might change their approach after watching Rick play that one the way that he did? Is that just more of a factor of speed, too much power going into that? Is there going to be some fear in these golfers coming up next to say, hey, you know what, maybe this is an opportunity here? He's now just dropped 2 strokes on a double bogey. There's come back to even. We're 1 behind him. Are they going to play this one a little bit more safe? Like, how do you think that changes the mindset and the approach on this hole?
Well, it's a huge game changer that brings Rick back down close to level with the field. But the reality is these 3 that are on the course right now are not only playing each other. They're playing 3 other putters later today in Brian Johnson, Tim Talley, Jeremy Inabinet as well, where they still have to go low. It's not like they can just settle for trying to beat Rick Alessi here and hope that's enough. The chances that a 35, a 36 is going to win today is very low. So I still think you're going to see some aggression here out of the rest of these putters on the back 9. That's a good starting line for Gary. Does he have the right speed? It looks like he does. And that's a pretty good putt. This is a challenging hole. Still a little meat on the bone, but it looks like he knows exactly what the line is going to be. Move it up to it pretty quickly here. And he's got it. He's got it. And that's how you play it. You just want to card your 2 here.
Great putt there by Gary, and Rick seems to be still thinking about that one a little bit as he moves on to hole number 12, which, as we've discussed, is one of our featured betting holes. And the over-under here set at 1.5. The over plus 200. The under, or the over, excuse me, minus 200. The over under plus 250 there. Rob, yet again, another opportunity here for us to lay some big money on this hole for these betting odds. Plus 200 over, minus 250 on the under. What are your thoughts on where this line is currently sitting at and how these golfers might approach this one, especially as things have now tightened up?
This changes the game a little bit here because it's a multi-shot hole, right? You kind of got your straight in or you got your bounce off the rock. And I think you're going to see a little bit more aggression. Now that the field is condensed to where we are at right now, aces are so important. Right. And if we look at what's coming up after number 12, number 13, a hole that's ace 7% of the time. Number 14, 2% of the time. Number 15, 0% of the time. So this is the one where they have to get aggressive.
Right.
This will make things interesting for sure. Not saying we're going to guaranteed see aces here or holes in ones, but I do think that we're going to see putters going for it on the back 9 here. It's like Cranford dealing with some flies.
Yeah, I was going to say there was something in the air there distracting him a little bit.
By, yeah. Back it off. He seems flustered at the tee box right now. A little bit of a fly invasion, it seemed right there really quickly. I can't tell if he's playing the bank here, but you might see a bank off this rock that funnels out towards the hole. And he is playing the bank.
For it. And he's got it.
Wow.
What a putt by the doctor.
Back in business. You know, he's a man of many talents. Doctor, pastor, professor, and putter as well.
Yes, correct.
The gospel greensman, as some might call him out on tour. Kent Cranford.
Who calls him that?
Maybe just me. Maybe just me. Gary, you notice the different line there?
Yeah.
And you can get a bounce back.
The roll back, not quite
Not
there.
quite enough.
You know what? I think Gary will be okay with that. Obviously, after watching the doctor drop in an ace, he would like to have followed that up, but still remain in a tight race here. And after watching what Rick had just done on the last one, things got even tighter here. So an opportunity to kind of just stay within the mix and not have to worry too much. I think Gary will be okay with what just went down.
And Rick recounting here his starting line. Looks like he is going to play the bank off the rock. Now, the bounce off this rock has changed over the years, and more players used to play this putt, but they recarpeted this in 2021, and that's changed things. Oh! Wow.
Look
and
at
maybe
that.
the luck is turning
Look at
for
that.
Rick Alessi. Wow. This guy's been all around the hole all day long. Sometimes you catch the break, sometimes you don't, but snuck one in right there in the side door.
Rob, that will cash the over there.
There
on
it
hole
goes.
number 12.
Just you don't even need to see the other three today.
Nope.
That cashes the over right there.
We've got a sweat going on hole number 8 as we had the over 0.5, and that one currently sitting at 0.
Yep.
But after one group of play, 3 golfers through, we cashed the over. So you know what? We got to feel good.
Gotta wonder what the odds makers were thinking on that one, Zach. Really gotta wonder what the odds makers were thinking there.
You know, we hear Vegas knows. Vegas knows. Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't know. Maybe
they don't
Vegas
know.
does not know.
All right. Well, as we continue on to hole number 13, we see up on the screen here 2 different ways to approach this one. You know what, Rob? What are your thoughts on hole number 13 and how you might actually approach this yourself?
Okay, so this one breaks very sharply from right to left, which makes it nearly impossible to go directly into the hole. So I think you're going to see the bank shot that gets played on this hole, trying to get it in just past the hole on the left-hand side, bounce off the back brick and into the hole. But there's another bank shot that looks like it's going to be played right here, which is an interesting one. Oh, almost the double bank there for Gary Hester. And you can see this is a challenging hole. Scoring average for this on tour is 2.17. Only gets aced 6.8% of the time. Gary, you know, you got a feel for him. He's definitely frustrated right now, and he's missed a few aces by just a little bit. And that looked like a good shot, and we're seeing it happen again right now.
And you've got to think that this is where frustration would start to creep in even more here for Gary as he watches those just fall just short. And on top of that, you're watching your competitors who are playing pretty clean rounds with Rick. They're obviously one major mistake, but other than that, looking at him follow us up here with another pretty nice opportunity to clean up with a 2 on this hole. And then the doctor, I mean, ups and downs, but he's making the most of it when he's getting his opportunities.
So what you'll notice there as Rick putted in is there is an out of bounds on the left if you miss very far to the left of this hole. So if you go straight down the left-hand side there, out of bounds is in play, which is why I think you might be seeing these bank shots come into play to avoid the out of bounds on the left-hand side. But ultimately, we're getting into a run here of these final holes, 13, 14, all the way through 18, where you're looking at an ace on every single one of these holes less than 10% of the time. So I can see the frustration when you miss by ever so slightly, because it makes such a huge difference if you can get one of these in.
Rob, some people in the chat here watching don't seem to be too impressed with the Cowboys hat on the or Cowboys helmet on the desk.
It's real unfortunate for the people watching. Oh, get the bank, and you didn't get the right kick.
The other way, yeah.
Yeah, didn't get the right kick. Typically, that will kick the other way, but unfortunately, it did not. And Kent's gonna take a quick look here. Again, remember, he took some years off in between here, so the familiarity is not there relative to the guys, to Rick Alessi and Gary Hester.
How jealous are you right now watching this event take place?
Honestly, it is such a great event, and it's really jealous. I mean, I love playing in these. I love to learn the different courses. There's just, it's so kind of cathartic to play in one of these things, and the margins are so fine. You hear fine margins in other sports all the time, sometimes soccer, but especially in mini putt.
Right.
You could play your best game, and sometimes you just don't get lucky. And some days you play your worst, and you do get lucky. And we got a bad kick right here for Rick Alessi off this one. But that can happen. It pops up into the air. And in fact, sometimes players will play that specific line just because it makes it for an easier deuce putt here on 14, which is a very tight line and like very, very hard to hold.
Well, as an Alessi supporter myself here, I'm just looking for him to stay calm as we continue on throughout the rest of this round and knock down another one here to get out with a 2, and he does. So as he remains in the lead, we're going to continue to look on at Rick, who just looks calm, cool, and collected throughout this round here today.
So almost everyone's going to play far left here, which is not the greatest stance, obviously speaking. And they're going to aim just left of the hole and hope that they can get a nice little kick off the back. But sometimes you get that pop-up like the dead one that Rick got there. Sometimes you hit this putt too far right and you hit one of the early bricks and you get yourself into trouble here. But that'll go left of the hole. You look for the kick and you just hope at that point. And sometimes it'll go in, but this is a very, very inconsistent kick off the back box.
Well, he leaves himself with a little bit more of a favorable position than where we had just seen Rick at there, and able to knock that one in to get yet another 2 on this hole. And do you think this is one of those ones where Gary's going to kind of start looking at this and just saying, maybe I got to throw caution to the wind a little bit. I'm trailing in the group. You're looking at, hey, yeah, you get an automatic bid if you win the round, if you win this group. But on top of that, a higher score, you could find your way into the final round if you do start to creep up.
Yeah, the challenge is that with some of these holes, like the one we're witnessing right now, there's just not a way to get more aggressive.
Right.
Like hole 14 here, you got one line and you're playing that line and you're just hoping for the best. So this is why I think you're seeing the frustration from Hester, is that he knows what holes are left. He knows that it's really hard to make up ground here, and he just missed his deuce putt there to the right, lipped out. And now he's just, now he'll be talking to himself walking off here, because he knows we're getting into a stretch here where you just don't ace. And he's going to have to hope for his competitors to fall off. And that's not something that these guys want to do either.
Anybody in this group is capable of winning this thing. And when you have a one-round event, it's just 18 holes, the best players can have an off round, and a guy that may not compete that often in the long run may have a great round. Jeremy, he's a youngster coming on. I call him youngster. He's probably in his 40s. He has a good shot at it. I got Kent Cranford. He's an old friend of mine from High Point, North Carolina, and he started playing mini golf out of the putt group the last few years. He can always make a run at everybody. Rick Alessi, he's an older gentleman like me, and he's looking for a big win, and he loves playing down here, and he'll be practicing, I'm sure. He'll give everybody a good run at it. And also in my group, Brian Johnson. Man, I tell you, Brian can shoot a 31 or a 41, and he knows I'm joking with him, okay? Because he fires everything at the hole, and so when he's on, he's on. He can go really low, so he can be tough to beat at times.
But when he's off?
But when he's off, he's like the rest of us,
You're trying to be a little too soft here, Gary. What are you trying to say?
At the end of my career now, if it gets where I'm not competitive, I don't know if I can continue to play, and I would think about retiring.
Brian Johnson, Tim Talley, Jeremy Inabinet coming up afterwards as well. +2 is not going to hold up.
Right.
And maybe Gary might find himself getting the +1 or even par here, but it would take some spectacular shots. Hole 15 here, this is not an ace hole. Like, your one goal on this hole is your shortest deuce putt possible.
Right.
You're going to try to play that bank off the left and nestle it up to the hole. But you do not see aces here. So it's going to be very challenging for Gary to get back into the picture.
Right.
For both Rick and Kent Cranford here, now they're alive. And Rick Alessi, with the way the course is playing today, which is really hard, if he can get one more birdie in here, maybe finish -2 with a 34, that score could hold up going into the final 3 today. So it'll be on those guys to try to improve now just a little bit, because I unfortunately think Gary Hester's got too much to overcome at this point.
Well, that was Gary Hester, who came into this one as the outright favorite to win today's event, +200. And now you are kind of seeing here, these were the top 3 odds of outright winners, possible outright winners for today's event. And you do see the doctor and Rick Alessi here now take the lead past Gary. And it feels like, as Rob had kind of mentioned, that might be you don't want to say it's the end of his day there. There are holes left to play. He could fight his way back, but based on the way that things have gone for the other golfers, based on the way that things have gone for him here today, it's going to be an uphill battle the rest of the way. So it's a little bit difficult for him there. But as Rob said, hole 15, not as much of an aceable hole. You walk away with one here, you're going to consider yourself lucky.
I mean, you walk away with an ace here. We're at the 12-year anniversary of Pete Weber Jr. Who do you think you are? I am.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk away with an ace on 15, you have to recreate the Pete Weber Jr. moment, because people don't ace this hole. This just doesn't happen, which I would love to see, by the way.
I would love to see that as well. I mean, we've got Miracle on Ice references here today, Pete Weber references. let's see, what else could we fit in here throughout the rest of today's broadcast?
There's still lots of time to
Still
go.
lots of time.
To go. Kent Cranford playing that bank off the yellow. And again, it's just going to roll around the rim. And you want it to just kind of nestle here. Outside of that, unless you get some miraculous kick, it's very hard to do better than what Kent Cranford just did here. You're playing for a deuce as much as possible on this hole.
Now, I've seen this happen a few different times. The first time I saw it, it was somewhat shocking. Now, you obviously understand that once you get up against the edge of the boundaries, they give you the opportunity where they bring out the ruler, they move the ball. Wow.
And this is it. So, I mean, now Rick Alessi
tough.
is seeing this. He's got a 2-shot lead. He knows that going into this hole. A deuce is extremely important. You got guys in the clubhouse right now, Brian Johnson, Tim Talley, Jeremy Inabinet, watching this, who are licking their chops. We're looking at live betting at Bet365. Odds dropping on all those guys. This is now anyone is in play for this tournament. Anyone is in play.
We're going to have very, very similar putt here for Gary to try to knock this one down and walk away with the 2 here. And things have felt like the door maybe opened up a little bit, not necessarily for a comeback on Alessi, but maybe into that next position. I have the next best score. It obviously depends on how the next group does. But hey, I mean, you look at this. We talked about, one round. You only have to get out here. It's the sprint, not a marathon. But the other group is the 3 lowest odds to win today's event. There's no guarantee they're going to shoot the same or better than what these guys have done today.
Well, you look at all the other players that are yet to tee off. Brian Johnson has a low of 34 here, an average score of 35. Tim Talley, a low of 33, an average of 35. Jeremy Inabinet, a low of 33. All these guys are capable of going low. What we don't know right now is whether or not the course is just playing harder due to the conditions right now. So we'll see that with the second threesome today. But if Rick can get out of here with another deuce, 3 holes to play, he's in really, really good shape right now relative to the rest of the field.
Taking a little bit more of what seems like a powerful approach than what we just saw the last 2 golfers take. And he's going to have a slightly different putt here at the hole. Looks he's going to be about, depends on which way you're going to look at it, but about 6 to 10 inches over more to the left from our vantage point, from where those guys just took their last approach. So looking to knock this one down to get a 2 and get out of here.
Big putt here for Rick.
Let's see, winds up and knocks it down.
Right edge. But he drained it. He's in there and still at 1 under. 3 holes to go. The Myrtle Beach Maestro on his way to winning this threesome. Still some work to do here, though, because we move on to 16. As you can see, a little bit of an interesting tee shot, but this hole is uphill 90% of the way.
As a pro mini golfer, we know that you put a lot of effort into this. How hard have you been training in the gym?
A few hours a day.
Yeah.
And around the tournament, it'll be a lot more hours.
Okay. I mean, you told me earlier today that you were benching 250. That's a lot for a guy your age. Rick, come on now.
I might have fibbed a little bit on that one.
Hey, you're not skipping leg day though, are you?
No.
No, not at all.
Rick, on the other hand, has the danger of, okay, I'm going to finesse it up there. Don't want to have too far of a second putt. That's where danger can come into play. But 8.7% of putters ace this in the Masters 2021. That's the highest of any of our remaining holes.
Well, and you see the golfers step up to the plate here. We saw Gary plus 200 as the opening outright odds, now to plus 600 as the live leaderboard is updated there on Bet365. Gary looking to take an approach through this tunnel, as we would say, the cave here.
Ooh, just missed left. And now you got this long putt coming back. It's a delicate putt.
Yeah.
Because you go past the hole and you're rolling right back down to where you teed off. So this is a challenging one. He gets a little bit of relief there. But ultimately, just a tough day for Gary Hester altogether. You know, Gary's caught a lot of breaks, both on the World Putting League and in life. with the Green Bay Packers and their quarterback situation. The Lambeau linker, Gary Hester, just not his day today. Just not his day, and he snuck it in the left side there.
The Packers references, Rob. The Packers references. Well, I think that he's not going to love his play here today.
I see what you did there.
But you know who would? That would be Rick Alessi, who is currently sitting in the lead and is the live odds leader to win today's event. Plus 170 there on Bet365. Looking to probably just try to get through this one as clean as possible over the last 3 holes. Not necessarily take as many risks. But here we go. On 16.
Got to get it up there, and he's got a chance. Now, will that hold?
It's got to hold.
Will it hold?
Looks like it will. He's going to have a fairly short putt there for 2. But
that was the PGA Tour. I'd be running up the market right away, I'll tell you that.
That's what I was thinking.
He moved up there pretty quick. Rick Alessi, I mean, I didn't know he still had that giddy up left in those legs, getting up there to putt this immediately. And there he is, another 2. And he'll take that.
Yep. Continue to power through.
Now, remember, there's also wild cards here, right? So this is a score that's a very respectable score and might not hold up against Brian Johnson, Tim Talley, Jeremy Inabinet later on, but still 2 wild card positions that can get into the finals. And those wild cards will be determined over the course of this event and preliminary number 2, which happens next Monday as well.
Doctor taking an aggressive approach at it, just misses. Coming back.
Lots of near misses today, but
yeah.
I mean, any day of the week, pretty much any putter in this field would be happy with that.
Yeah.
Easy deuce. But unfortunately, Kent Cranford needs to make up a stroke here or more.
Especially given the style of play in today's event. Now you see there, Rick Alessi still in the lead, a 2-stroke lead. It's going to take essentially either, hey, I mean, we opened today's show with the Do You Believe in Miracles theme. This could be what it takes for someone else to knock Alessi off the top there.
Totally. I mean, again, there's 3 putters that haven't teed off yet that are just loving what they're seeing so far.
Yeah.
Now, granted, a lot of these people are friends, and they don't want to see other putters, fare poorly. But this is a leaderboard that is shaping up for someone that's a long shot to potentially be in the mix. And we look at hole 17 here, often referred to as the gingerbread man because of the shape of the hole. This hole has a very steep incline, like massive incline. And players are just going to look to hit the back bricks here and try to get it nestled up top and play a deuce putt. There's just not a lot of aces that happen here overall. So the goal, especially for Rick Alessi, with the score he's at right now, is make sure you get it up the hill, as close to the hole as possible, nestle it in there. Kent and Gary got to be way more aggressive. Doesn't matter if it comes back down the hill on them, they get a bad bounce. Like, they got to go for the hole at this point.
Yeah. This is a fun looking hole. I will say that. You got the uphill gingerbread shape as you had referenced there.
But you can see
uphill,
the incline right now,
yeah.
right? That's very steep for a mini putt carpet. Typically don't see inclines that much.
Gets up to the top.
Got a bounce, going to get a little kick. And that's kind of what you want to do. Ideally, you'd like to be a little bit closer than that.
Yeah.
But Rick's practiced this course a lot. He should know the read of this second putt. He's looking at it right now as he pulls out his notes here. He's going to take his time. Pretty important putt for him here.
You notice Rick's notepad here? Looks like he's got just a sheet of paper. Straight up just.
Listen, I've seen some putters that come in and they've had like their notebook, it doesn't even fit in their pocket. It's so thick. Sometimes it could be information overload. Personally, I like to have as much information as possible when I'm putting, but some people just find it to be too much.
Here's Rick looking to knock down a 2.
And
he gets it to go.
If you look at the favorite for this entire event, Joey Grable, who's playing in preliminary number 2, I've walked the course with him many times. He carries a notebook around with him. You'd be hard pressed to see him pull it out of his pocket 2 or 3 times around.
Right.
He just prefers to go in the flow, and he knows the shots, and he kind of sticks with his instinct, and that seems to work for him. That's just different playing styles. You end up kind of taking a different course of action.
Well, here's the doctor. He's going to need to make an ace here if he's going to give himself any opportunity to win this and that's not going to do it as he leaves that one long at the back. No opportunity for that one to come back down towards the hole.
Yeah, that was not a great putt in my opinion, because again, where he's at on the score, maybe that was one where he's looking to go front door and he maybe just put it a little bit too hard. But you kind of want to give yourself, in my opinion, 2 chances to make an ace on this hole. One where you hit it hard enough that it goes front door, and if it misses, you get the kick off the back. It's a really, really hard hole to ace. So I'm not saying by any means that he should have, but he'll be unhappy with that leave considering where he is on the leaderboard right now.
Needing to knock this one down for any shot, and he's not going to do it.
He's pulled it. And this is where we're getting into wild card situations now.
Yep.
And again, it's not just the 3 putters this afternoon. It's next week's putters.
Yeah, 6 more putters taking place next Monday, and that will be here on the worldputtingleague.com as well as on the Hammer HQ YouTube channel as well. That'll be Monday, March 4th here at 1 p.m. Eastern time as well. Another round of 6 brand new putters who are going to be taking place competing in preliminary event number 2, looking to make their way to the finals on April 2nd as part of the World Putting League Survivor Series. Now, Gary, his putt on 17 takes a direct line at it.
Now a little too, but I like that from Gary, right? And again, that had some speed, so you can't say for sure it would have gone down, but it hit the hole.
Yeah,
and you got to be aggressive in this situation and just hope you get some luck, because that might hit the back of the cup and stick in there. It didn't for him, but I do like what Gary went for there, which is, he's realizing his score's not good enough right now.
Yep,
and he's got to make up some ground. That putt would have put him ahead of Kent Cranford. It would have swapped spots, and that could be enough for a wild card. Who knows? Anything can happen on the World Putting League.
Well, there you go. As taking a look at the leaderboard here now, Rick Alessi, -1, leading the way here in group number 1. Gary Hester and Dr. Kent Cranford both tied at +2 there as we head to the last hole for group number 1. Obviously, Alessi here as the live leader on the odds board, coming into this one and third for the outright opportunity to win today's event. Gary Hester was the outright favorite, and we've continued to see the odds board adjust live. But Rob, I'm kind of interested about your thoughts on the hole-in-one market here, where obviously you've talked about the outright winners here. 13.5 we've been looking at for the total for today's event. Only at 5 here, 1 hole to play for group 1.
And this ain't going to be the one where you're getting hole-in-ones either. So we're going to be having to look at 9 hole-in-ones for the second group today to hit that over. This is really hard on hole 18 to see the difficulty of the shot from the camera views that we're going to get. But this is one of the hardest shots on the entire course.
Yep.
It's very suitable for a hole number 18. They're going to tee it up as close to the right border as possible, as you can see on the graphic here. The green breaks severely from left to right, counterintuitive to what you think, and out of bounds is in play here based off of the break as well. You can see it can go off out of bounds to the right of the hole. So very, very challenging tee shot here. You get a hole-in-one about 1 out of every 100 shots on this hole. So it can happen, but typically speaking, this is one at the end of the tournaments where you're trying to just avoid a big score as well.
Yeah. Well, the doctor looking to get out of here and clean things up for himself on what's been a little bit of an up and down
Watch this
day.
one break to the right. And it goes up the hill and comes back down. Now, that was light and dangerous, but you put it a little too hard, it hits that right slope and just goes out of bounds.
Yeah.
So it's a very delicate putt, and now this one's going to be a challenge as well.
He's got a long putt here to close things out with a 2. Finish today's round at +2.
Ooh, will it hold? Wow.
And he gets it to go.
The old rim job right there. Look at that one. I didn't think that was going. I really didn't. If we could have slowed that down and paused in real time, I would have bet -200 on no when I saw that.
All right, here we go.
That's a better, still light.
Slightly less to work with than what we just saw out of the doctor for Gary to close this one out. Oh, that's pretty much how Gary's day has gone.
And you know what? He knew it too. He stepped up to that one really quickly. Typically, you would see Gary take a little bit more time with some of these putts.
Yep.
And it's just a frustrating day for him, and it happens. And this is the format of the event, right? 39 for Gary Hester. If we look at his U.S. Open scores, 33, 32, 36, 34, 34, 34. His Masters scores, 35, 32, 34. 39 is so uncharacteristic for him altogether. You wonder if it was pressure. You wonder if it was having to chase the lead in the early going.
Yeah.
But a lot of things happened there for Gary.
Well, talking about cleaning things up here, Rick Alessi, our final putter of round number 1, group number 1.
And all three have kind of left it in the same spot there. He seems upset with that. It was the best tee shot of the three, but he knows he's got some work to do here for the deuce, which looks like it should be left edge. And there it goes, right in the center of the cup. So Rick Alessi.
There you go. Our leader after Group 1, 18 holes of play. Rick Alessi, who came into this one plus 375 on different odds boards that we were looking at, the third favorite to be the outright winner of today's event. And Rob, how do you kind of break down what we've just witnessed here out of this Group 1 and what we thought might take place, especially given these were the three favorites to win today's event?
I mean, it's kind of shocking, really. To be completely honest with you, I've not seen Gary Hester play this poorly. In the history of me following the World Putting League, typically speaking, he's a model of consistency. I do think the fact that he got behind early forced him to change his game a little bit because he is more of a conservative putter, but I have not seen him putt that poorly. Kent Cranford was kind of an unknown because he didn't play the Masters rounds here, but his U.S. Open scores, he didn't shoot worse than 34 and shot over par today. So really surprising, honestly, to see Hester and Cranford not even in the mix altogether. Rick Alessi, everyone kind of pointed to him as the dark horse. You did, especially Zach, before the show, in terms of the proximity to the course, knowing it inside and out. I don't think he's going to be super happy with a 35 that he shot, but ultimately he's in the mix, and it's going to take someone to come out of this final grouping here of Brian Johnson, Tim Talley, Jeremy Inabinet, excuse me, tough one, tongue twister.
Inabinet.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
In order to beat him. So Rick Alessi, I mean, credit to him. Kept it together, but he will go back to that clubhouse now, and that double bogey is going to bother him.
For sure. And speaking of bothering, it's good. Gary had his worst professional round here today on the course, so that's going to be one that he's going to take away with him for sure. And one thing I'm kind of curious about as we prepare to get into the second grouping, would you rather be in the position here now of Alessi? You're sitting in the clubhouse at -1. You know how the course just played. You know how two of the other favorites in today's event had just played. And you're going to be going in, sitting and waiting, or would you rather be in the position of these last three putters who know what they have to do and maybe how aggressive they have to be?
I definitely would want to be in the position of these last three putters right now. For Rick Alessi, I don't know, we might crack open a beer or something in the clubhouse and try to sit back and calm the nerves, but it's going to be a sweat for him. This is going to be a stressful round to watch everyone else behind him. If someone does beat him, he still has a possibility of a wild card spot as well, but that's going to create even more stress watching next Monday's event. So I certainly don't envy the position of Rick Alessi right now, being that, first one in, leader right now that everyone's chasing. I'd rather be out on the course, know exactly the score that I need to beat to win, and play to that. I think that's a little bit of an advantage for these next three putters.
Yeah, and we've continued to see the odds adjust here as it's gone through, but we can make it as many assumptions about Alessi and how he's felt. But nonetheless, let's head down to Josh on the course to get an inside look of what's going on today.
Back in Myrtle Beach here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Group 1 winner, Rick Alessi. Rick, you got to walk me through those 18 holes, man. You were coming in pretty nervous, but you stepped up to the plate. Walk me through it.
Well, it's tough conditions out there today. Very windy. The course always wins on this. They beat all the players. I'm happy to shoot 1 under. I had a little hiccup on hole 11, but came back on hole 12, made the ace.
You told me that you did not like hearing underdog under your name. Talk to me a little about that featured nickname around you and how you stepped up to the table in this back nine.
Maybe I got that name because I used to watch Underdog when I was a little kid, but I don't know.
All right, so you had a very frustrated setting competitors next to you. Gary Hester showing some emotion, Ken Cranford as well. How did you keep your composure?
I just kept to myself and just stayed in focus, just concentrated on the next hole.
Yes, sir. And did you have any motive coming into this one, who you were playing for? I know you have a special lady watching in attendance.
Carol, my wife, is always my backbone. She pushes me to be a good player and have a little other motivation. My dad's birthday's on April 2nd, God rest his soul. He brought me into this game, and hopefully I'll get to play on April 2nd.
Good to hear from Josh and Rick there down on the course. And as we've heard from them, windy today. The course always wins. What do you make of the conditions that we've seen out there? I mean, we talked about the apparel these guys were wearing and how they were shaping up, down, even though it is in warmer conditions, maybe today a little bit more difficult.
So I have played in wind before, and it does make a difference. So that's why you see the scores being a little bit lower than we expected. And that kind of changes your perspective on things a little bit, hearing Rick talk about how the wind affected the game. Ultimately, it's something that you can prepare for only so much because it just takes certain shots out of the equation. So that'll make it a little bit more tricky coming down the stretch here. But ultimately, great performance in those conditions by Rick. And again, you take that double bogey off the card, he's 3 under, and he's pretty much laughing right now at this point. Yeah. But that double bogey and that out of bounds is just a costly error and brings everybody else back into the mix.
Well, there you go. That'll wrap it up for group number 1 there. Rick Alessi taking the lead, -1. After that, after 18 holes there, and we see Gary and our friend, the doctor, are going to be sitting in that clubhouse. Essentially, as dreary as it is to say, they're going to be waiting and hoping for something terrible to happen out on the course for the other players.
It's possible. It's not like they're completely out of it yet. There's still a chance. Who knows what the conditions will be for next Monday's event as well. Potentially you get some downpour or something like that. That can change things a little bit as well. But it's just a challenge. And both of those putters will be really disappointed with their round today, unfortunately.
All right, well, that'll do it for group number 1 as we prepare for group number 2.
Brian Johnson, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Jeremy Inabinet, Chicago, Illinois.
Tim Talley, Golston, North Carolina.
And here we are looking at hole number 1 here again for this second group of players. And we did see the odds continue to adjust as things went along there. You see these golfers, Inabinet, Talley, Johnson, their odds continue to get shorter and shorter and shorter as the first 3 continue to wrap up the front 18. And we're going to see them step up here on hole number 1 as they prepare for their 18, looking to beat Alessi at his -1.
And certainly, just like the other group, ace is very possible here about 30% of the time. One of the most aceable holes on the course. So you want to see him get off to a good start here. Oh,
wow.
Little too much juice.
Well, we saw the first 3 golfers in the last round. All of them come up short of those rocks at the front, have to push through, get that next shot, a difficult approach. There you go. First.
Oh, Brian is not going to be happy with that. Brian Johnson not going to be happy with that. And you know what? This was the talk going into this course. You can see the disappointment in himself, and he does wear his emotions on his sleeve. We've seen it before, but he just will not accept that from himself. And this course has always been an issue for him for some reason or another. Off to a bad start there with the 3 in the early going.
See, I think the hat selection here,
Tim Talley.
This might be an edge for Tim.
I mean, that looks like a good putt. Did he get it?
Oh, wow.
Well, you know what? He's got to tap in too. This hole has caused trouble today for these putters for one reason or another. Our first threesome today. Also, by the way,
I love that. Love that play.
Don't have to bend over to pick up the ball in the hole. That's got to be worth something.
No need to waste energy. No need to risk injury, throwing backs out, hurting knees. None of that. Pick up the ball, continue to move on. Pace of play as well.
That's it. Very important here. Our long shot, Jeremy Inabinet, misses out to the left.
Off the rock there.
Good punt. We did not see an ace on this hole today.
Nope.
Typically speaking, the second highest likelihood of an ace on the entire course, and we did not see one on hole 1. And then we get to hole 2 here coming up, where it's likelihood of an ace is pretty much non-existent at this point, with this big 180-degree turn that we talked about earlier on. But the most important thing here, Zach, if you don't hit it hard enough, it comes back to you. So you got to hit it hard enough to get it up towards the hole. But Brian Johnson, very disappointing start there with that bogey on 1.
And live odds there over on Bet365. Rick Alessi plus 125 now.
Big fave.
And Tim, who, as I mentioned previously, is looking to tally as many aces as possible. the second favorite to win today's event here now, plus 500 on the live odds market. As we head over to hole number 2, and Tim stepping up first.
The putting patriot, Team USA all the way. Tim Talley representing the U.S. across the world in global competitions.
We're going to need a recap or an update at some point here on the nicknames we've learned or uncovered throughout today's broadcast. Well, gets it right up there.
Yep, solid putt.
Very good putt.
Good start for Tim right now. I know it's, we'll wait till this goes in. We don't want the commentator jinx one more time, but par, nothing to be disappointed about that.
Rick sitting in the clubhouse reading through his phone messages from family telling him about the jerk on the broadcasting crew who mushed him earlier in the round. Oh, that one is going to be... Well, he comes back around, and it's not as difficult as I thought it might be based on the original position that it was heading.
It looked like it was going to get stuck behind that rock in some capacity.
He's going to have a relatively clean look, especially as a right-handed putter at this hole. Oh, it's that one a little bit. All right, well, he's in for 3 there. Inabinet. He was the longest odds to come out as the outright winner of today's event, and that's not going to help him there, unfortunately.
Brian Johnson will want to clean up that early bogey. Cannot afford to start bogey here. And that should get out to the hole there. Solid putt from Brian. Little bit left on that one.
What would you set the odds at here today, Rob, of a putter throw from Brian?
Listen, I like Brian Johnson a lot. I know commentators are supposed to stay impartial, but when I was out in Myrtle Beach, he showed me the ropes at a lot of these courses, the shots. I got to walk the courses with him. So I have somewhat of a rooting interest for Brian Johnson. I don't want to see a putter throw because that would mean that he did something bad.
Yeah.
But for pure entertainment purposes, you can never go wrong with a putter throw.
Yes, that's what I'm saying as I'm looking at this. I hope it goes well for these guys. I don't want to see the crumble. I don't want to see the Greg Norman situation.
No, I don't like that.
But if it
John
happens,
Vandeveld, poor guy. I'd like to see someone win playing their best golf.
You know what? I feel like for those who are watching and tuning into this event for the first time, or tuning into a World Putting League stream broadcast for the first time, they're going to be looking at this leaderboard and thinking, wow, I'm seeing -1. Otherwise, I'm seeing evens and plus scores on the card. I feel like I could do this. Rob, can you just explain a little bit about the fact that it's not as easy as people may think?
The first time I went out and played one of these courses, I shot over 50. And I consider myself to be at least a decent putter. I golf enough to do that. And the reality is, you got to get in a ton of reps on these courses, and the margins are just so fine. It's so much more challenging than it looks, especially you do not see, due to the nature of the carpet and the color and the shadows that are on the course, you don't really see the break in all of these putts.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And this course, especially relative to the others on the North Myrtle Beach circuit, are so much more challenging here.
Now, Brian,
these
all
putters,
the way off with his feet off the course here. You notice that?
Yeah, they'll all be looking to play this bank shot, and Brian nailed it.
Knocks it
there
down.
Hole in ones.
Helps with the aces.
There you go. And he's like, you see the emotion, right? Like the fist bump, walking off the course. He's back in it. He knows it. And that's, it's aceable, but it's not an easy ace. 18.8% of the time.
Live hole-in-one tracker currently sitting at 6 for those of you who bet the over 13.5. I guess either way, this is going to be a little bit of a sweat.
Yeah, there's some work to do here.
Yeah, one way or the other.
There's some work to do here. If Tim can ace this one. Ooh,
wow.
interesting.
He got the bounce off the right side and then again off the rock on the left, and in what looked like it could be a very difficult position for him, he gets a little bit of a fortunate.
Oh,
wow.
That was quick. See, I'm really wondering whether or not the tee shot was a mishit or if that was a direct line where he was trying to kind of lay it up to the hole.
Right.
Because I've only ever seen putters try to hit off the yellow Rick at the back.
Right.
So I'm not sure there, but he stepped up really quickly for that second putt. And I don't think you typically see deuce putts from there all too often. But that's very disappointing for Tim, who's going to drop to 1 over with Jeremy Inabinet 1 over as well. And Brian Johnson, after that early bogey, back to even par.
And as you see here, Alessi still remains in the lead. Brian Johnson, even par. Tim Talley there at +1, and Jeremy Inabinet there at +1 as well. Still, all three golfers remaining ahead of Kent and Gary, who were in the earlier group. The first 18 that was played, that they sit there at +2 and +3 at the bottom of the leaderboard right now. I'm interested in where your thoughts are on Brian and his ability to kind of take over here. We see him have these ups and downs. You see him wear his emotions on his sleeves. That sleeve, that can play a factor one way or the other, but you see him bounce back there. He knows he's right back in this thing. How does kind of the rest of this round play out for him?
See, it's really weird because if you look at Brian Johnson's scores here at the Aloha, they only range between like 34 and 36. He's always in that range. However, I do consider him to be a streaky putter. So while he's always ending up in that same bracket of final scores, you do tend to see him go on runs where he gets back-to-back aces, puts a lot of good holes together, but also has the tendency of putting some negative streaks together. Again, you'll see it. Of all the putters in the tournament today, he's very emotional. You see the fist pumps, you see the putter throws, you see the shaking of the head. He lives hole by hole. And when it's going well, it can go really well. When it's going poorly, it can go really poorly.
Well, through 3 holes, he's got 1 bogey and 1 ace on his card, as well as a par there, and he is currently sitting +400 on our live leaderboard over at Bet365. He's going to take a little bit of a direct
and
just
little
on the
snaking
outside.
putt there. Again, another aceable one here. It's a front door putt, but you got to get the speed perfect on this one. Got to get it perfect.
I love the emotional play out of Brian. You can see it. You know how he's feeling. As long as he stays even-keeled for his own sake inside his head, I think things will be okay for him. But another direct approach. He plays it off the bank there. It's Tim Talley, and he's going to have a pretty easy putt here to knock it in for 2.
You can see as soon as they miss the front of the hole, though, they know it's just not meant to be type of situation. Typically speaking, you're going to see those go into the front door.
Inabinet.
And that's
just
long.
outside, and he's not going to have enough runway to come back there, enough power to run back.
All three will be a little disappointed here. Whenever you have a hole that you know you have a chance of acing and you don't, it doesn't feel great because you feel like you can do it every time. But in reality, the expectation would be that more often than not, all 3 putters do not make an ace on this. So no harm, no foul, so to speak.
They all had what looked like pretty good putts, pretty good approaches. You just don't walk away with that ace, and no one's really able to break free. But at the same time, no one has now dropped off from the front group, and you see Alessi still in the lead, but no real change here between Johnson, Talley, and Inabinet, who all feel like they still have a chance to win this one as we go over to 5.
Yeah, and with the format of the tournament here right now, we got our top 3 that are going to go into a sudden death playoff here. So there's going to be a lot of movement up and down the leaderboard. It's still very much within reason that someone like Kent Cranford is in play if we see some bad scores here. So it'll be important for these people in the second group to get things going. And hole number 5 here, again, another hole that can be aceable. It's uphill the entire way, breaks from right to left. And as you can see from the graphic, there's different ways to play this shot. You can play kind of that front breaking right into the cup type of shot, or the one with the bank off the back. Be interesting to see when we saw the first group, different ways to play this hole. How will these guys in the second group decide to play this one?
Well, and for those of you wondering whether you're on the Hammer HQ or the worldputtingleague.com, however you're choosing to consume this here today, these guys are going to have very interesting approaches to this because the top 3 players go to a sudden death. The winner of that is the winner of today's round, advancing automatically to event number 3, which would be the final round. So they're still in competition, even as it is. You're not necessarily just chasing Alessi. You'd like to be able to be the one to take that lead away from today, but the top 3 advancing to a sudden death.
Tim Talley just missed an ace there, tapped in 4-2. As we're going to see Jeremy Inabinet up here right now. Playing the straight shot as well, and drained it.
Gets it to go.
And almost drops to a knee with the fist pump there.
Shades of Tiger.
There we go. Here we go. Jeremy in business.
And live update on the hole-in-one tracker there. The total set for today at 13.5. The over plus 110, and we currently sit at 7. Opportunity to make the over bettors feel a lot better here. With another ace, if we can get one to go down.
And again, a straight putt, but that's going to be short.
Going to be
just did not have the speed. Might have had the line, but had to have a little bit more speed there. Oh, Brian.
This is where you get into putter throwing territory, Rob.
He's going to practice the stroke again. It's just really disappointing. Those are 2 strokes that he's left on the board here.
Looking to knock that one down, and he does. Gets out of this one a little bit cleaner than could have gotten there if he let that one get to his head, but you do see him with some frustration that he's expressing. As you had mentioned, Rob, the highs can be high and the lows can be very low when it comes to Brian out on the course there, and he's going through it all right now.
Notice Brian's out there in the short sleeves today.
Yes.
Well, you think that's an intimidation factor?
It's like a lineman in the NFL in the Colts. You don't wear sleeves. You lather yourself in Vaseline, but you don't wear sleeves.
I don't know that Brian's lathered himself in Vaseline before the events, but certainly the short sleeves. Interesting choice with the win there in Myrtle Beach today. Hole number 6, again, very inviting, very tempting to make an ace. Straight putt, curves right to left.
Yeah.
But if you go long here, which we did not see in the first group, but if you do go long and get stuck against that back wall, you are hopeless in terms of stance for your second shot.
Gary and Rick Alessi have more experience on this course than I do, but other than that, I think I'm better. I've got more experience than the rest of them on this stage. I've been in Team USA overseas for the World Championship 3 different times. I've been playing at the national level since 2015. I've come close several times. Haven't quite won one, but very close.
You say you have some similarities to these guys, but the odds don't show that. How do you feel about being an underdog going into this one?
It's a motivation for this, but it's hard to lie with the numbers. The last couple tournaments down here, this course, I have not scored well, but that's irrelevant. It's time for me to step up and actually play this course well. And again, it comes down, if I play my best, I'm going to win.
Okay.
Well, we're going to see Inabinet here with his first shot of this hole after just coming off of what was an exhilarating hole-in-one on the last one. Going to take a direct approach. He's going to put it by with power.
Is one of the challenges.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a great stance here depending on where you are. And you can see the hand on the hip trying to evaluate and just look for some relief, but it's just ugly when you can't have like your proper stance. He's got a little bit of room there. He ended up in a decent spot.
Lining up the putt to knock this one in for 2. Oh, and just misses.
Oh, yelling at the hole. That's the first I've seen of that.
This group is exhilarating.
Oh, yes. This feels like I'm watching a WWE Survivor Series right now.
You see the last group, they're all fairly even keeled as it gets later in the round, and they can see things start to slip away. You saw some emotions come out. These guys, hole number 1, miss putt. We're getting putter slams, balls being bounced off the ground. Guys are upset, and
Brian just missed that one, but that was a great putt.
A little bit of frustration after missing that one, but smiling to himself, knowing how close that was, and a good opportunity to knock this one in for 2, and he does.
Apologies to all the children out there watching today for Brian and Jeremy on the course.
Well, at least they don't have to listen to Knish on the broadcast.
There
so
we go.
There's a bonus.
Tim Talley up here, and he's found something in his line there on the course. He's going to throw that aside.
Smart play.
Except he noticed how he bent over to do that instead of using
wasting it.
Wasting energy.
That's the next invention here on the WPL is a putter that clears things for you. Just scoops things by.
You need like a little miniature, like a dust buster.
Exactly.
At the end of your putter. Hey.
And a short putt
shouldn't
there.
Give these ideas out for free.
Yeah. Scratch that one. To everyone at the Pro League Network and the WPL, please remove that from today's broadcast. We're going to be keeping that one for ourselves.
Now we got a race here.
Yes.
For this, again, top 3 of today are going to a sudden death playoff. That will crown the winner for today. It's anybody's ball game for those 2 and 3 spots right now, including Kent Cranford and Gary Hester. Who knows what could happen here? On to hole 7. This is the most aceable hole on the course. But you do not want to be too aggressive here because if you go past the hole, out of bounds is in play. It's a double breaker putt, goes left and then right, but you got to get it with that delicate touch because you blow it past the hole, and this could be a blow up here for Brian Johnson. Very light
touch there.
Oh. And this is what happens. And
halfway up the hill, a little bit.
But like you could see how he just tapped that and how far that flew.
It was a very, very light approach there. And it just rips by the hole. So something that Tim Talley is going to have to take into account as he lines up for the next approach. And Brian not happy with himself there.
Seems like he caught wind of the camera at the end there.
Yeah, he went, well, let's clean that one up a little bit.
Yes.
Family's
Image
watching.
is important.
Family's
Sponsorships
watching.
are important. Tim Talley, little taparoo.
Go in your hole.
Misses it left.
Doesn't get there.
Seems really hard to keep this one short today. Now, what's interesting here is that they get the relief from the bottom of the slope.
Right.
Which is very different than the international rules. International rules, this would be spotted, if it were to go out of bounds at least, would be spotted at the top of the slope.
Wow.
But you get the relief at the bottom of the slope here.
Oh, no. Tim's not going to be happy with that one as he misses that one just left of the cup.
You know who just cracked a nice cold brew? That would be Dr. Kent Cranford, excuse me, back in the clubhouse right now. Seeing what's happening out on course here. Gary Hester, Kent Cranford, these guys are fist bumping back there now. Oh, there we go. He followed it right in the hole. He followed it right in.
Kevin Na style there.
Right there. Jeremy spoke in class today.
Well, there you go. After that hole, we are now at 8 on our live hole-in-one tracker. So the over 13.5 bettors feeling a little bit better about themselves after what we had seen through round 1. And Rob and I discussing we're going to need a lot in this second group. And so far to this point, we've gotten them. But now as we head over to our feature hole on number 8 here with the live odds set at 0.5, we've yet to get one. And Rob, you know what? You weren't afraid to lay the juice. Are you a little bit afraid now?
Oh, I'm definitely scared. I'm definitely scared. At this point, bias aside from the commentators, we're rooting for hole-in-ones here, people. We're rooting for hole-in-ones. We need a hole-in-one here. But again, because of where we are and the way the leaderboard's shaping out, not a lot of hole-in-one opportunities on this course.
No.
I do think that this is a hole where we see these 3 putters especially go for it, not play for a deuce here. So that's not to say they're going to make it, but I think we're going to see some aggression, and it's going to make for an ultimate sweat on this hole.
All right, well, let's go. Predictions here. Do we see one out of these 3 golfers? Do we see a hole-in-one? We gave the over 0.5 at the minus 230 because we had 6. I'm curious where you're at now. We've seen 3 go through. None have gone in. Are you still thinking that we're going to see one here?
So what I like about this hole is that you kind of got 2 chances, right? You can putt it. It's a downhill putt, but you could get it front door. If you miss the hole, you can use the roll behind on that hill to come back in the back door. I think we're going to see one here. In fact, I'm going to call my shot. I think we're going to see 2 here.
Wow. All right. There you go. You've heard it here. You're going to see 2 here. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. And we're going to see Tim Talley take the first approach at it. I mean, a hole-in-one here, Rob, will have us feeling pretty good about your prediction.
I mean, we need at least one. Let's call it out for what it is. All right. Tracking.
Got it. And the minus 230 cashes. Now you're on the line. You got 2 golfers remaining. Can we get the 2 here?
Can we get the 2? Bold prediction.
I say they do it. I'm with you, Rob. I say they do it. A little late, but I'll join in.
Easy to say they do it after you see the first.
Inabinet drops that one down. Good line.
Oh,
wow. Comes back. He's not going to have too tough of a look here to knock in for 2, but
what a scorecard for Inabinet. Some squares, some circles. We're still in the early going here. And wow. And we're going to get another square on the scorecard.
I need to just not say things like that when these guys go up to step up for these putts. Great putt there to close that one out and get away with that. But
he's riding the roller coaster. But given the fist bump to Tim Talley there as they're approaching the cave. Brian Johnson to come through on my prediction.
I say he does it. We got one shot, one opportunity. Sees everything you ever wanted, Rob. Can Brian do it? I say he does. Looks like it's going to come back in.
Ooh! Steady stroke Johnson nails it.
He got it.
Nails it.
And it goes in.
Steady stroke Johnson.
There we go. Cash the over 0.5 minus 230. For those of you who weren't afraid to lay the juice with us, we grabbed that one there on hole number 8, the feature hole, the live hole-in-one tracker up to 10 here now on the day. 13.5 feels much more in range as we have
it does.
10 holes remaining.
And this is part of like the second group and chasing and trying to score as high as they can brings a lot more hole-in-ones into play. But that hole, certainly great tee shots from everyone. We ended up getting 2 hole-in-ones there as we enter the cave. Now remember, this cave hole, very interesting, Zach, in that the lefties have a big advantage. We saw all those left-handed putters there. Last time around, we saw Rick Alessi putt right-handed.
Yep.
Gary Hester, Cranford, putting left-handed. Do we see putters go lefty here? I believe I've seen Brian Johnson putt lefty on practice courses before. That brings in a big advantage. But this is a challenging hole. You can ace it, but you can also put up a big score if you don't get that tee shot right.
And this is one I feel like these putters at this point where you're currently sitting at amongst the leaderboard, you're thinking, I've got to get myself into the top 3. And if I'm not going to be in that top 3, I've got to do every single thing I can to stay within a wild card position. You look at the rest of your group here now, you're probably going to be looking at, hey, let's just not put up big scores, right? You're just, even if you could stay within there around even, you're going to be in a pretty good spot coming down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm sure you know all these putters right now. I mean, we're still on the front 9 here, entering into the cave on hole number 9. But all these putters know where they stand right now. And this is going to be like strategy evolving with every single hole based off of what other people are doing. Because right now your goal is just to finish in that top 3, right? You get in that top 3, you have a chance to win that sudden death playoff. So get there, don't do anything dumb, don't take a big score, and ultimately it starts right here as this is going to be our final hole of the front 9 inside the cave with Jeremy putting left-handed to maximize his angle at the pin.
How would you approach this one here, Rob? Are you taking left-handed putt?
I am. I've putted in a cave before left-handed. It didn't work out. But whatever you can do to get yourself the best angle, unless you're a horrible lefty putter, but
right. I think maybe a backhand approach for me. I would go from the left side, but
yeah, the old pool cue approach possibly as well.
Oh,
down on the knees.
Now
I do not believe that's legal tender in the World Putting League, but when you're playing with your buddies on the course.
Yeah. Well, Inabinet here looking to knock in for 2. Great putt to close that one out.
And he's really struggled with the deuce putts today. If Inabinet was a little bit more squeaky clean with these deuce putts, he would be running away with it right now.
Brian stepping up here, left-handed.
Looks a little bit like Bryson DeChambeau, the way that putter stroke is being held there. Little shades of Bryson with the steady lock grip there. Yeah. Great putt, though.
Yeah.
Great putt.
See, I need to get out with these guys before our golf season starts up here in Canada because, Rob, you've golfed with me. I can't putt to save my life.
It's real challenging. It's actually very hard to watch, Zach, to be honest with you.
I can imagine. It's hard to do. I couldn't imagine having to see it go down. So
3 for 3 lefty putters on this hole. As Tim, that's tracking.
Tim tallies another ace, Rob.
That had some speed. That was going to be on the interstate if it didn't hit the hole there. That one had some speed, but direct center cup, 11 hole-in-ones.
This group is just powering through at this point. Well, we came into this one with Tim close to the bottom of the leaderboard in terms of outright odds, plus 600, and yet you see him up there, tied for second with Brian Johnson, who was plus 500, both sitting at even right now, 1 stroke ahead of Jeremy Inabinet. And this second group of the day here continues to just motor through and makes it feel like they're in a much more comfortable position than where even Group 1 was sitting at after the front 9.
So going into the back 9 here, Zach, holes 10 and 12 are the holes where you're looking for aces here. Everything else on the back 9 is extremely challenging to get an ace, but 10 and 12 are where you're going to try to make up strokes. This hole in particular, some will play this from the left side, some will play it from the right side, just like the graphic shows you. The ball is going to go right to left, and then it's going to straighten out. But there's multiple ways to score on this hole. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But this is one where at about an 18% hole-in-one rate, you can attack. Go after that deuce putt.
Quickly here, I believe we saw Gary Hester at plus 100,000 there, live odds to win this. Any chance you'd take a live flyer on that?
Give me 100,000. What is it, 100,000 to 1 or plus 100,000? It was plus 100,000, right? Yeah.
Was it plus 100,000?
You give me plus 100,000 on anything, I'm taking it.
Yeah. Misses that putt just to the right there, but otherwise a pretty good approach.
It looked like as soon as he hit it, he knew that it wasn't going in. That's just speculation on my part, but watching him immediately when he hit it, I think he thought he didn't give it a good enough chance there. And he's walking to the bridge right now. Looks like reevaluating his life, honestly, the way he's looking, pondering something.
That was not just what happened on that hole. That was how did I end up here type of look.
I agree.
Tim
Tally.
Does Tim have the OG Woodbridge Adidas pants on right now, Rob? Is that what I'm seeing out of him?
I think I own those Adidas pants. They're very comfortable. I would definitely mini putt in those if that's what he's wearing. That could also be a Kappa or a Puma type of track pant, if I'm correct. But it does look like the Adidas standard track pants.
I think you just automatic bid to the final round if he's wearing tearaways.
Oh, tearaways. You know what, though? One of those stripes is thicker.
Yeah, not
Adidas.
No.
I'm going to have to talk to Tim about those pants afterwards, after he drains his deuce putt right there. That was a challenging one, by the way. Challenging one. I have noticed Tim has a little bit of oomph on those tee shots.
Yeah.
A lot past the hole so far. That could hurt him coming up here with some of these out-of-bounds holes that come into play. But so far, respectable showing from Tim Tally. Jeremy.
So Jeremy's going to have the most difficult putt of the 3 putters here in group number 2 to close this one out with a 2. Taking a look at his scorecard here and evaluating how he's going to approach this one as he does get some relief off the wall. Rob, what's going through his head here?
I honestly don't know. I was just looking at that WPL vest and thinking I need one of those.
Yes.
Honestly, he looked at his book there. So he has some sort of line that he thinks this is going to be on, and now it's just execute. And he did not.
He doesn't.
And you know what? These will start to eat away at you.
Yeah.
You know, we're not professional putters,
Oh, God,
Zach
no.
and myself. You know, by far we're not. But you start to miss these deuce putts.
Yeah.
And it starts to get in your head. Every single time you stand over another deuce putt, you feel a little bit more pressure. And that's the fourth bogey for Jeremy Inabinet. He has 2 aces on this course today.
Yeah.
Just really extreme. Got to clean up those deuce putts. And each one he faces now going forwards, the pressure is just going to grow on him.
Well, much like the doctor we saw in Group 1 there, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, going up and down in terms of what his scorecard was looking like. It was geometrically beautiful, as you might say, when you're going to look at a card like that with circles and squares everywhere, but not so great when you're going to take a look at the leaderboard. And here he is, dropped down to tied with Kent at +2 there, still managing to stay ahead of Gary Hester at +3. But Tim Talley, Brian Johnson, Rick Alessi remain your top 3 as we head to hole number 11 now. Alessi currently sitting in the clubhouse, listening to the broadcast, listening back,
You would hope.
hearing Rob talk about what that ace was going to go down and how he's going to feel after, still shaking his fist. But still, Brian and Tim here with an opportunity to catch him and a bunch of holes left to play.
And remember, hole 11, disaster is in play here. An ace is almost impossible, but disaster is in play. Playing for a short deuce putt. The absolute worst thing players can do is miss that tee shot right. So you're going to get one kick off this hill, another kick there, and that's well done.
Very good. Very, very good
That's
approach.
well done.
Yeah. He's going to walk up calmly, comfortably, wearing that ventilated hat he's got on. I need one of those as well. Strong stance. And he knocks it in.
Very wide stance there. Low to the ground. It's almost like he's playing a bunker shot with that putt right
Yeah,
there.
it was. Okay, actually, you know what? I have something on my mind here now as we watch him pick up that ball using the flip end of the club. Do you not think that handle might affect how you're going to putt?
The grip?
Yeah.
I would think they got it figured out by now.
Feels like...
I mean, this isn't Tim Talley's first rodeo.
I guess,
Man's been putting for 20 years plus.
Inabinet here.
And again, another deuce putt. He's going quick this time.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm not consulting the book.
Wow.
Living on the edge.
Yeah.
Living on the edge.
Yes.
Brian Johnson up here. And ideally, you want your deuce putt to be a little bit closer than that. But again, this is just about avoiding the out of bounds as much as humanly possible. Gonna catch hill one, 2.
Oh,
that'll roll out. And that's
good
job well
angle.
done.
Yep.
He'll be happy with that.
It was a little bit concerning there. I'm not going to lie. As we watched that ball roll up onto the hill, I thought he might get into a Alessi territory when we saw him go OB. The only OB of the day, actually, that we saw so far, where Alessi did go up and out and kind of putting him in the position that he is, where he's only sitting at -1 after that first round. But Brian Johnson does manage to make a great shot there, a great approach, and is able to knock it in for 2.
And we're going to be moving on to one of our featured holes here. Hole number 12, multi-shot hole, various starting positions. Some will use the rock, as we saw last time out. Some won't.
I don't know if I like the rock approach. The whole idea of how you got to hit it, where you got to hit it to, the power that you got to get on it, it scares me a little bit. It's not something I'm attempting, but yet again, I'm no pro.
I personally, and again, not a professional here, but when I've been out with these guys on the course, I like to take bounces out of the equation as much as possible. I prefer to play for a straight putt.
Yeah.
But with the rock, you actually do have a little bit of a margin for error. If you miss slightly to the right and you hit the middle of the rock, you can still get a good kick and bounce it into the hole here. So it's not a super dangerous shot altogether, but lots of things coming into play here. We already cashed the over on holes in one for this hole with our first threesome. So we got 2 out of 3 there.
Yeah.
This is one that you can make. And if you bet the under for total holes in one at 13.5, it's time to start sweating.
Well, I believe our friend AD in the chat there was sweating himself on the overs, but as you're able to cash the over 1.5 earlier on hole number 12, we cashed the over 0.5 on hole number 8. Now we're going to be looking at an opportunity to get closer and closer to that 13.5, starting with Inabinet, and he just misses.
And see, he went for the straight line there. And we saw the holes in one come off the rock. That was a straight putt that he went with.
Yeah.
I believe Gary Hester played the straight putt as well in the early going. Looks like Brian Johnson lining up from the left side as well. So certainly one of the more interesting holes in that it can be played in a variety of ways from a variety of starting positions. That's a rock play.
For the rock. Nestles it up.
There we go.
That'll take it to 12 hole-in-ones here on the day.
You notice how quickly Brian moves to pick that ball out of the hole when it goes in? Guy looks like Usain Bolt out there once he drains those.
Yep. And when it doesn't, he looks...
skyward, I would say.
Well, here we go. Tim taking more of a approach from the right here. Is Kappa Terraways.
So this will be off the rock. Oh no, opposite. Interesting. Have not seen that angle yet.
Just misses, almost goes out of bounds. Wow. Comes back for a pretty good rollback and a good opportunity to knock in for 2 as he does there.
And we talked about it a lot. Tim has pace on those putts. That one rolled right up to the top of the hill there on the back.
You see that gentleman in the back there wearing the suit, the glasses? I think he might have been from the Men in Black.
Possibly.
Never know. He's going into the clubhouse and erasing the memory of Alessi so he doesn't have to rewatch that shot of him going OB over and over again.
Or potentially Gary Hester might want the memory of today erased as well.
It's possible, as we see Gary there on the leaderboard still in last place, but Inabinet and Cranford still sitting at +2. It looks like this is going to be a race between Johnson and Tally to kind of see who can catch up to Alessi or potentially take over, as Brian Johnson does tie him for first on the leaderboard at -1 as we head to 13 in this second group of the day. Tally, I mean, we were looking at him, Johnson, as these kind of lower end in terms of the odds for today's outright winner, but they've proved to kind of learn from what happened in that first round, maybe learn from the conditions a little bit and apply that to their games as they've headed into this round and had some success.
I'm a big fan of this hole personally, Zach. This hole breaks severely from right to left, and it makes it really hard to go directly into the hole. So they're going to be looking to get a kick off of the back wall, yellow wall there. However, there is an out of bounds that comes into play if you miss too far left. But that's the type of shot. I'm wondering today if the wind might be holding that up a little bit.
Right.
Because we haven't seen the bounces coming off there, but good putt from Brian Johnson there.
It's in for 2, and he'll be happy with that as he's going to stay at -1 on the day and right up there with Rick Alessi. As we see the hole-in-one tracker on screen 12, we are still looking for 2 more for those over bettors at +110 to cash.
That's going to be challenging with what we have left here. That's going to be a real challenge. 13, 14, 15 here is, if we were going to make an Augusta comparison, would be like your amen corner, so to speak. These are very tough scoring holes. If we look at the averages on tour, 2.17, 2.17, 2.18, and holes in one less than 7% of the time on each of these holes. So this is one where these next 3 holes here, you just want to limit the mistakes. Obviously, you want to make a good tee shot and get it in the hole. But in a lot of cases, 2 is a great score on these holes.
Well, Inabinet is going to need to make up some ground here, and that's not going to do it.
And that's what can happen. You miss left, and the out of bounds comes into play. So that's going to be a penalty stroke. But you have to try your best to miss on the right side of this hole, because you go up that hill with speed and you're in trouble. And now you're looking at a lengthy putt for a 3.
It's going to be a tough putt for a 3 here, as Inabinet is currently sitting +2, and at the bottom of the leaderboard of this second group is referring to his notes here before he goes and attempts this putt this is a pretty important one for him. You drop another stroke here, and it's going to start to feel like, especially with how the other two guys in your group have been playing today, like this could be the end of the road for you in today's event. You think the rules official gets pissed off having to go out there and move the ball for a guy who's got the picker up on the end of his club? It's like, you're out here picking your ball up. You don't bend down. I got to bend down?
Never thought about that. I would suggest you're reading a little bit too much into the situation, and no rules official has ever thought that. Ooh, as we see Jeremy miss again. So this is going to be a double here, and there's some extreme scores on this scorecard today for Jeremy Inabinet. And he does the cutthroat symbol to the camera. I don't know if he's saying he's done or he's done with somebody else. Maybe he's done with you, Zach.
Yeah, he said, whoever that guy is on the commentary, I've heard just about enough. He heard me say that this could be the end of his day, and then drops one of those. And based on how they're going so far, this might be we could take over.
I think right now, because of the way that it's shaping up, with you have a 2-stroke lead over number 4. So Tim Talley's at even par. He's got a 2-stroke lead over 4th. I think, as we see a pretty good tee shot there, they're playing not to make a mistake at this point.
Right.
Because at this point, it doesn't matter if you finish in 1st spot or if you finish in 3rd spot. You're going to that sudden death playoff no matter what. So at this point, it's don't make the big mistake. And because of that, I think you might see the hole-in-one overall score, which is set at 13.5. That might be in jeopardy of staying under because of the mindset of Brian Johnson and Tim Talley now, which is don't do too much. Let's get ourselves home. Jeremy Inabinet, that's a different story. He's got to make up a ton of ground at this point.
Yeah.
He's super aggressive. Looked like he was walking into traffic there. He's very aggressive, but really close, those cars on the side of the road there.
It is, and as Normally Dis pointed out in the chat there was bikers on this street.
Will he get the kick? That's part of it.
That's
Almost.
pretty good.
Almost.
Do you think there's part of Inabinet right now that's wondering if he's going to get invited back to the next WPL event?
No.
No?
I don't think that's going through his head. I don't think that's going through his head.
Okay.
I think if what he's thinking about is probably a lot of the secondary putts he's had so far today, which have been, frankly, not very good.
Anyway,
but we knew this
just
about
checking
Jeremy going into this tournament, right? Like, very wide range on his scores. He drains those second putts. He's killing it, but that was a bad kick.
It looked like he was going, that was the intent of where he was putting it. Obviously, the result doesn't go how he would like, but that seemed like where he was trying to play it.
Well, this is a very tight line, this hole. Probably one of the tightest, if not the tightest, on the entire course. And what they're playing for is a kick off of the back every single time. Usually it pops up into the air, but Brian's took a bad run out to the right there, but he nails his deuce putt. Somewhat picks up the ball angrily out of the hole there. Like, he didn't deserve the fate of what that deuce putt ended up being, but still looking good here. Still looking like he's in position.
Well, taking a look at the live leaderboard, Inabinet there now as well, sitting plus 100,000 at this point.
Hey, give me 100,000 on anything.
And Gary Hester, well, if you like plus 100,000, maybe 250,000 at plus 3 might be to your taste there, Rob. Not really sure, but you want a flyer on someone, that could be the guy. As we do look at Alessi and Johnson still in the lead. And seeing that live updated leaderboard, plus 137 on Alessi, Brian Johnson plus 175, Tim Talley plus 275. Obviously, we get to some longer odds in the final 3. Is there anyone that you might try to find some value with, or you do find some value with on the live leaderboard right now?
Well, it's interesting because Brian Johnson and Rick Alessi came into this round with very, very similar odds to start. Rick Alessi would probably be favored amongst this group, but again, Brian's playing well. I mean, with the exception of that rough start for him, he's really gotten it together. And I wonder if it's an advantage having to go into sudden death, having just been on the course, relative to having gone back to sit down and relax a little bit. So I don't know. Brian Johnson to me stands out as the guy right now that could be the one to beat.
As Inabinet there now drops that one in. And for those wondering about the hole-in-one market, as we see it up on screen at 12, and we're seeing 13.5 was the total set on the day, the sudden death round does not count towards the hole-in-one tracker. So that will just come to a conclusion at the end of 18 here with this second group. And that will be the end of that. There will be no additional hole-in-ones added for the sudden death rounds.
And a reminder to everyone watching this hole, this is nearly impossible to ace. I don't believe it's happened at the Masters or the U.S. Open the last couple times it's been played. This is a bank shot off the yellow, get it curling around as close to the hole as possible, take your deuce and move on. 2 is essentially a 1 on this hole.
Right. Well, Tim Talley coming up, looking to close this one out. Just going to bring that one around.
That's a little light. You kind of want it to get around a bit further. Dagwood's right across the street. Can tell you right there. Been there many times. Had some late nights at Dagwood's.
I'm not going to lie to you, Rob. I don't know what that is. I will search it up right now just in case.
Well, let's just say it's a go-to for some people on tour.
Okay.
Nice little sports bar across the street in North Myrtle Beach.
Yep.
Very, very nice people.
Is this where you had the pork chops?
That's
the infamous pork chops?
That is a different place down the road, which I would not be able to tell you what it is, but $2 pork chops served at between 4 and 6 o'clock every day. Great deal.
No free ads. No free ads as we head to hole number 16 here. 3 holes left to play. And just an update on the leaderboard here and how this one works out. This is event number 1 of the preliminary, or the event number 1 of the preliminary rounds here. We do have another one next Monday, March 4th, I believe that one would be. And the winner of that will also join the winner of today's event, as alongside 2 wildcard competitors in the finals on April 2nd to conclude this Survivor Series as part of the World Putting League. So today's outright winner out of the sudden death round will automatically advance. Then the outright winner of next week's sudden death round will automatically advance. And the 2 best scores after that, not including the sudden death rounds, will join them at the finals on April 2nd back in Myrtle Beach.
I gotta think next week's preliminary, the conditions would likely be a little bit easier than this. I mean, obviously it could be more windy, but today seems pretty windy in North Myrtle Beach. So you might see both wildcards come out of next week's group if it's a little bit easier to play, but who knows what the conditions will be like here as Brian Johnson steps up on number 16, making sure he's getting it up the hill, and he's done. And that's a great putt. Yeah. This is one of those where you got to make sure you get it up to the top, or else it's coming right back. It's uphill 90% of the way. You could see how it broke right to left.
Yeah.
But Brian's doing what he's got to do right now, which is just not make the mistake, and he'll find himself in the sudden death playoff. And Tim's got to do the exact same thing here. Just nestle it up next to the hole. Don't put it too far past and bring a big score into play. Don't keep it too short. Have it roll back down. Very interesting stance here on this hole as well.
Seems like he's almost nestled up against the wall, at least from this camera angle. Oh,
and that's pacey.
Yeah,
and you know, this leaves a tough second. And as I mentioned with the first group today, the issue with this second is if you miss the hole, you could get it going all the way back down the hill.
Yeah. Well, it's risk reward here, right? That gave him a great opportunity at the ace look, but on the other side, you're looking at now that little bit of a daunting putt back to kind of close that one out with a 2, which he does there, so good for Tim, but it was that kind of scary moment.
Now, Jeremy's going to try to go for the ace. He just left it short, but he's going to have to start making some aces here in order to bring himself back into
Over
the running.
13.5 bettors currently sitting at home snapping their own putters over their knees.
That was the best look you're going to have for the remainder of the course at a hole-in-one. 17 is possible here, the gingerbread man.
Yep.
This is a very steep incline. Players are trying to hit the back bricks here and get a deuce putt somewhere that's close to the hole, but every now and then it'll go in. The big mistake here would be to leave it short, and it just comes all the way down the hill, which we haven't seen happen yet today, but actually does happen way more frequently than you would think. It's a very delicate putt, but opportunity for an ace here is roughly in the range of around 7%.
Right. We did see the doctor in Group 1 try to dial in his own operation and see if he could attempt an ace to get himself within striking distance of Rick Alessi coming out of that one, but unsuccessful. So we'll see if we're able to get any aces to drop here. Tim Talley up first.
Practice stroke there was a strong one. You can see that he wants to make sure he gets it up the hill. Hits it hard.
He does. Interesting, given how hard he hit it and was lining up to hit it. It felt like there was a chance that thing was going to fly up the hill and continue past the hole.
The incline is way more than it actually looks like.
Yeah. Deceiving.
Very wide stance again from Tim. Blasts it right in the middle of the hole. Beautiful. Great deuce putt there. Tim's very consistent right now. He's locked in.
See the Men in Black, man?
His fist pumping there. You can see Gary Hester back out on the course.
Yep.
Men in Black there, I believe is Ted. That looks like Ted.
Yes.
Yeah, I did once rag on him for the polo shirt and laser look.
Right.
He likes to often go with, but it seems to work for him. It's not a look that I'm all that familiar with, but it works really well for him. That's a great putt right there by Jeremy. Unfortunately, he needs some aces here, but if he was right in the mix here, he would be really happy with that effort. His tee shot there. A little bit of a penguin stance, I would call it. Do you notice that? The outward flare of the feet?
Yes. It's good observation, actually.
That's what I do. That's what I do. I call it like I see it, Zach.
Yep. We appreciate that.
The rules state you must play the ball as it lies. That was hit hard.
That's that awkward middle range too, right? Where it's you get it a little bit short on the front side, where you don't give it enough. Now you give it a little bit too much on the backside, but still, yet again, not enough to get that bounce back the other way.
We did see him consult the book there, see the break of the putt. I think it should be fairly straight based off of what we've previously seen, and it
said to go in.
Center cup. Brian Johnson, very consistent now. Slight little fist pump. I believe he said, "Who do you think you are? I am," as he strolled across that bridge right there. Brian Johnson. Heading into hole number 18. And hole number 18 is just, again, I cannot stress the difficulty of this tee shot enough.
Yeah.
You tee it up as close to the right border as possible. It breaks hard from left to right. Hard. It's counterintuitive to what you think. You'd stand there, it looks like, maybe it's going to go right to left because of the way that the green is shaped, but it actually goes left to right, and out of bounds is in play on the right if you hit it a little bit too hard. We saw all three putters in the first round keep this one, knock it short, very short. I don't know if wind is a factor right now or whatever, but this is a very, very tricky putt. One of the most daunting on the entire course.
See, Rob, during the period of time that we've been fortunate enough to work with the WPL and the PLN here, there's not been many holes that I don't like. This is one of them for me. You're not a fan of this hole?
I'm
not a fan of it.
Oh, I love holes like this.
I don't know.
I love watching them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, volcano holes, get those out of my life forever.
Well, you had a bit of a different experience.
Yes.
I had a much more enjoyable time watching that one.
Right. Now, this has some speed. That's a great putt. But you can see how, like, a little bit more, and that can go out of bounds on the right. Very, very well done by Jeremy there.
Yeah.
See the penguin.
He does
feet,
have
right?
the offset stance. Yeah.
Interesting. It's like a draw. I think
Yes.
Jeremy might golf, and he's probably plays a pretty hefty draw.
Right.
Based off of that stance. So I'd like to confirm that with him. Cards of 40 there. Jeremy Not his finest round, but
respectable. Whoa.
Well done.
That was a nerves crept in as it got up on the ridge.
This is a tough one.
I
mean, because Brian Johnson knows now, like, I just don't have to make a mistake here.
You think the snowman on the hat is a bad omen?
I'll tell you, I wouldn't be wearing a snowman hat
I would not
to a golf
either.
event. I wouldn't be.
So I go the other way. Even if I don't get them, I try to manifest it. Anything that says, under par, birdies, ace, whatever I can do.
Ace of spades right on the middle of the hat.
Yeah,
there you
go. That's the way I'm looking.
Brian Johnson in with a 35, so he will definitely be one of the competitors in the sudden death playoff.
And Tim looking to get himself there as well. What a putt.
Excellent.
Leaves it just short, which will not help those who bet the over 13.5, but it will help Tim advance on to the sudden death round here.
Ooh.
Which,
A ring around the rosy right there. Look at that back nine for Tim. Very consistent. I mean, 2 under over his last 11 holes. Really solid showing from Tim Talley. Even par after a rocky start. Missed a couple of those deuce putts. But ultimately, gets the job done. Course played very, very, very challenging today. As you see, Kent Cranford congratulating everyone. But it's our sudden death. Rick Alessi, Brian Johnson, Tim Talley, and unfortunately, Kent Cranford, Gary Hester, Jeremy Inabinet. Apologies. It's a tongue twister for me every time. I will get it. They will unfortunately not make it to the sudden death round and are eliminated from the World Putting League Survivor Series.
Well, and now taking a look at this leaderboard and who remains, if you were someone who bet on this event outright ahead of time, you would have noticed Rick Alessi plus 375. Jeremy Inabinet obviously now eliminated our plus 1,000. That was someone we were looking at as, hey, maybe a long shot to take a chance on there in the second group. Doesn't get it done, but Brian Johnson plus 500 as well. We're going to be heading into this final round plus Tim Talley plus 600 here too. So a couple of the longer shot odds that were on the board available ahead of this event are the ones remaining. If you're going to break this down between these 3 golfers here, Rob, again, we talk about sprint, not a marathon here in this type of event. You get in, you get out. It's 2 rounds essentially that you're playing if you get fortunate enough to make it to the sudden death. Between these 3 golfers, how do you kind of handicap this yourself and give the best shot to win here today?
So this is truly anyone's game because honestly, going into this event, Rick Alessi's average on this course was 34.6.
Yep.
Brian Johnson's was 35.3. Tim Talley's was 35.4. So these 3 putters are all within a stroke career average on this course. So it's anyone's game. I personally believe that Rick Alessi might be at a slight disadvantage having played earlier, had to go sit down, whereas Brian Johnson and Tim Talley might be a little bit more in the zone. Right now, you see Brian Johnson as the odds-on favorite at plus 140. I tend to agree with that, but it would be, I mean, you can make a really good case for any single one of these guys. Rick Alessi, to me, was the most poised competitor today, very consistent, with the exception of that double bogey where it kind of went off the rails with the out-of-bounds shot. I thought he played the best of anyone, but Brian Johnson, Tim Talley, having just come off the course, they're in the zone right now. They're in the putting mode. They don't have to get it all back together and turn it on again. So anyone's game really, and we're seeing these odds move in real time with Rick Alessi getting some bets here right now.
Yeah.
I don't blame the people, but I give Brian Johnson a very, very slight edge right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we're looking at this live leaderboard here. Rick Alessi plus 150, Brian Johnson plus 175, and Tim Talley there at plus 200. Heading into this sudden death round, Rob, we're looking at some golfers that we think might be able to close this one out. Some golfers whose odds we took some longer shots on ahead of time. I'm still going to continue to root for my guy, Rick Alessi. But as we head down to our sudden death round, we're going to go down to the course and hear from Josh to see what's going on live.
Welcome back live here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina with Brian Johnson. Group 2 was an impressive performance for you. Walk me through those first 9 holes.
Well, hole 1, the wind picked up, so I gave it a little extra juice, and that's why I took the bogey because I was farther back along the back edge of the hump, so I didn't really know where that broke from there. Making hole 3 was huge. Then a bad mistake on 5. That was just all me making a mistake there. And making 8 and 12. 12 set the table and just was able to run through the back then.
And you were showing some emotion, just like Jeremy and Inabinet here. Did you feel like you kept your composure just enough?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And it's more fun when you let the emotion out because it lets everybody know what your head's in, and it just helps get out the nerves, helps you regulate yourself. Because if you keep it in, you get adrenaline surges, then you start hitting the ball too hard, or if you're getting upset, same thing. You can really start messing up your stroke.
Okay, now back to Rob and Zach back in the studio.
Let's take a look here at the sudden death rules as we are getting to our final 3 golfers. The outright winner is obviously the one who goes on and gets a guaranteed spot in the finals. But looking at the Survivor Series rules, we're going to start on hole number 1. Participants will see who will be the last one standing. The worst score on the hole will be eliminated. You win or tie the hole, you survive, as is in the theme of the Survivor Series, and you advance to the next hole. Very much a different kind of element here that we're going to see in this last round between these 3 golfers and how they're going to have to approach things. You don't want to be last on any given hole. What's kind of the mindset? What's the approach? And in your opinion, does this give any one of the golfers an advantage over the others now?
I don't think anyone of them has a specific edge, but I do think that the way that this course sets up right at the top, holes 1, 2, and 3, makes it very interesting because on hole number 1, you have an ace hole, one where each golfer is going to try to put the ball in the hole. Then you have hole number 2, which is like, you're not acing no matter what. Yeah. So it's like, don't put up a big score in this situation. Then 3, 4, and 5 are all holes where you ace them about 15 to 20% of the time. So I don't know what the strategy is going to be here for each individual golfer. I will say I know Brian Johnson specifically is a more aggressive putter, and he will play to win all the time. I don't know that that's conducive to winning this type of event, especially when there's 3 putters all together. But this is like really evenly matched, and you see it reflected in the betting odds, where I don't think there's a distinct advantage for either one of any of these guys.
We did look at the over 13.5 total aces on the day, plus 110, and it doesn't come through for us. So unfortunate situation for us there. But as we look at the order of how we're going to take place here in sudden death, Rick Alessi, first golfer, plus 150. Brian Johnson, second, plus 175. And finally, Tim Talley, plus 210 there. Live odds courtesy of Bet365, where you can bet pre and during today's event. So I'm excited. I'm excited for how this sudden death is going to take shape.
Very interesting market movement here because Brian Johnson opened the favorite for sudden death and now finds himself as an underdog. And the odds are kind of reverting to what they were pre-event, where Rick Alessi had shorter odds than Brian Johnson overall. Tim Talley, a bit of the long shot here, but again, just looking at his numbers relative to Alessi and Brian Johnson and his career on this course, his average is right there with both of these guys as well. His median score is a 34. So Tim Talley knows this course as well, and he'll be a fierce competitor overall. It really is anyone's game. It's not for the sake of just hyping this up. I have no idea who's going to win. It's anyone's game at the moment.
Well, we're going to see them start off here on hole number 1 here yet again, and cutting to Rick Alessi, who looks like he knocks that one in for 2. So as we know, the lowest score, the worst score on each hole is going to be out after the conclusion of the hole, and Brian Johnson next up here.
So basically Rick Alessi rooting against aces at this point. 2 aces would eliminate Rick Alessi after he tapped in for his par. Brian gets through the hole. Wow. What a putt from Brian Johnson. Look how quickly he got to that ball right there.
Runs.
He's right there. Picks it up, and now Rick Alessi is sweating because if Tim Talley aces this hole right now, we say goodbye to Alessi.
On a hole we hadn't seen an ace on all day. Talley steps up. Looks like he's nestled right up against that post there. Playing it from the left side between the rocks. It's on pace. Wow. That'll be the end of Alessi's day.
It's really unfortunate. And you know what? Rick is a fierce competitor, and you see him fist bumping right there. Yeah. Obviously, that's got to hurt. But both Brian Johnson, Tim Talley came right off a round, got right back into it. Putting stroke is there. And now it's just going to be them two going forwards. As Rick Alessi, unfortunately, great performance, but is not going to make it any further here in the sudden death playoff. He still can, make it as a wild card.
Yes.
So his -1 round that he put in today will count. And right now he'll have a wild card spot.
Correct.
However, he's going to have to wait it out for next week's competitors.
Well, we did see money come in on Alessi ahead of that final in the live market, and seemed to be wrong, as we're going to have here the 2 longer odds of the 3 that were going into the final round. Brian leading this one off.
And that's going to be
long.
a putt. And you see he consults the book right away and does not look too happy here, as this is a virtual coin flip right now at Bet365. Both these golfers lined at -120. I mean, after seeing what Brian Johnson's left himself here with the deuce putt, don't hate to click in Tim Talley right now.
No.
Because this is a challenging one.
And you know that this is going to be very much on his mind, as he's going to have to knock this one in for 2, because that 3, it really opens up the door for Talley to close this one out in 2 holes. And he doesn't do it.
And he lips out to the left. And this could be Tim Talley for the win if he can put this in 2 or less shots. As Brian has launched the golf ball across the course at this point. I mean, I get the frustration. I really do. I really do.
Here we go.
And I mean, I'll tell you right now, with where we're at, this is started on a good line.
Yes.
It just depends on the speed, because you want as short a deuce putt as possible for Tim Talley here.
Well, I'm getting news here, Rob, that Tim Talley has just won the event. So as the connection reestablishes itself here, as we can get it back up and get to the guys on the course, Tim Talley has won the sudden death here, and I cash my under 5 bets, and both of you suckers with your over 4.5s are gone to waste.
You know what? The 2 aces on 1 was huge, but also the 3 here, which was unexpected for me from Brian Johnson. We saw that in his first round as well. Like the 18 holes that he played earlier, where in the early going, he just couldn't get it. And the weird thing about this is, over the course of the day, it never felt like he was supremely in contention at any point. But the structure of the event is potentially conducive to one of these long shots coming in and snatching it up. So Tim Talley, who is lined anywhere between 6-1 or 8-1, depending on the sports book, comes through and takes it home.
Well, and he just kind of hung around, right? He never let himself make a big enough mistake to let things get away from him, let things get out of hand, and keeps him in the hunt, keeps him in the race. And despite how well Rick Alessi had played here today, my personal pick heading into the event, when it comes down to it there, we saw a hole that no one had aced all day, and 2 competitors in Brian Johnson and Tim Talley step up and knock those in. And Rick hadn't even played it poorly. He just goes in for a 2, a short 2 at that. And Rob, I think some of what you had said of the fact that these guys were coming off of, they had just played, you're rolling right through to it. There was only a brief overlay between their round and the sudden death. That might have helped play a factor. Now, you've seen hole 1 once, you've warmed up throughout the day, and the putter is hot, so you get things rolling. So it helps lead Tim Talley to a victory here today, but we're going to go down to the course and hear from Josh of what's going on live with the competitors.
Winner of Episode 1 WPL Survivor Series, Mr. Tim Talley, how are you feeling?
I feel great, Josh. It's a great feeling, great feeling.
Were you at all nervous about, your first grouping with Jeremy and Brian Johnson? I mean, you had some early struggles, but you came through. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I wasn't nervous, no. Had a good grouping. I just hurt myself with 2 bad mistakes on just really not difficult deuce putts, rushing, not taking my time. I usually have gotten where I try to I don't care how long the putt is, look it over, take your time, and I just kind of rushed it and put myself 2 over, and I was like, man, I'm not going to go and make to the next level. And then I made those 2 aces in a row, and we did have an advantage. We knew what the first group shot, so I was like, okay, if I can just place even the rest of the way, I'll get to go to the sudden death, and I felt good about my chances there.
Brian Johnson sinking an ace in the sudden death of hole 1. Was there any pressure for you on that one?
Well, of course there's pressure, because if you miss it, it's over. But I felt I was going to make it. Hit a good putt. It had tried to slip by, but it caught the lip. So, yeah.
Before the sudden death, you were right here on the side with me, telling me this one is mine.
Yeah. I don't know. I usually don't. I just had the feeling that I'm going to win this. I'm going to win it, and it worked out that way.
How do you carry this momentum going into April 2nd of the final?
That's a long break now, but I'll be ready when the time comes.
All right.
I'll be ready. I can't wait to play in it.
All right, Mr. Tim Talley, congratulations.
Thank you very
Rob
much.
and Zach, back to you.
That'll do it for event number 1 here of the World Putting League Survivor Series, taking place February 26th. We're going to go over to the second event coming up next Monday on March 4th there to see who goes on to face off against Tim Talley in the finals, along with the wild cards of today's event and next week's event to take place in the finals on April 2nd. Rob, what an event today was. We talked about how today's event and the way that things were going to play out and the rules surrounding it were going to make up for a much different matchup than we had seen in events past. But what did you make of what went down here today and how things played out?
Yeah, I think it was fascinating. This is a testament to, tough course and how hard it can be sometimes. The way that it played, we saw an unlikely winner in Tim Talley, but a very deserved winner. He kept it all together. We talked about it with his first round. He aced 8 and 9 in his first round, and then he went pars all the way out. Very consistent throughout the day, did what he had to do. And he's handled the pressure as part of Team USA before, conquering tournaments abroad. He finally did this back home at the Pineapple in the United States. Very well-deserved winner in Tim Talley, who will be in our finals in early April.
That'll do it for today's coverage. We hope you enjoyed. For all things World Putting League, you can head over to the worldputtingleague.com as well. More events and coverage like this, you can head over to the Hammer HQ YouTube channel. Thanks for everyone who tuned in here today. For myself, Zach Phillips, my co-host here, Rob Pizzola, our on-course correspondent, and Josh Tapia, our in-studio producer, Jason Cooper, and all the amazing people over at the Pro League Network as well as the World Putting League. We thank you for your effort here today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Monday.